Good evening, chat. Hello. We are on the eve of Inauguration Day, and we are going to get started on that. Hold on, chat. What the heck is this? Tell me, guys, does the color seem off on this? Because I don't think it does, but I changed shirts, so like this is really bright now. So, let me see. Thank you for being here. My name is Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal, and I'm an attorney in the Cleveland area. And tonight we are going to be talking about something that dropped, on Friday as a certified hood single. The SCOTUS opinion on the TikTok case. And I know that it's generated a lot of concerns. People are wondering, like, what's going on? What's happening to it? Well, the focus seems off. Let me fix that real quick. The focus is off. Let's see here. Effects. The focus. We got Donnie in the background. There we go. Okay, better focus. Better focus. Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. The autofocus is hooked on Donald. Autofocus is not on, or the tracking's not on. So where are we at with things? So if you guys understand, a law was passed prohibiting the ownership of TikTok, not just TikTok. So that's the thing. This isn't just the anti-TikTok law, although the situations right now, TikTok's the only significant foreign company or social media company that has foreign ownership that's an issue at this point. So that is the main thing here. This isn't just TikTok happens to be targeted, but the law, I mean, that's the issue here. You guys saying you thought Medicare show was pretty good? Yes. But we're going to talk about this here. And I know last night was supposed to be TikTok's today was like their last day when they shut down. But I also know they shut down like last night for a little while and people were starting to panic. But that was clearly a publicity stunt and to get more attention to their cause and their situation because they're back up now. And then they're like, oh, hey, we're going to work with President Trump. So what we need to do right now is talk about where everything stands currently. So at this point right now, we are dealing with the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. All right. That's the name of the law we're dealing with. And we're going to cover it in a second, but we're just going to say how the enforcement's looking right now. So as far as we know right now, and Joe Biden is still president until tomorrow at about noon, Joe Biden has said he will not enforce the ban. So Joe Biden has said he has no intention of enforcing the TikTok ban. Now, I mean, at some point, you kind of have what's he going to be able to do in a day anyway at this point? And remember, today is the final day for TikTok to get their shit together, but it's a Sunday, and then Monday is Martin Luther King Day, a federal holiday, also Inauguration Day. So it's not like Joe Biden would have been able to do anything effective, really, I think in a day and a half. I don't know what he would have been able to do in the meantime, even if he wanted to sort of like train a cruise missile strike, bike dance or something, or attack any server locations here in the United States or whatever it is. I don't know exactly what he would have been able to do at this point. So yeah, I don't think it would have mattered. And then what we have instead is Trump has indicated he very might well give them a 90-day extension to the ban. So is that going to work? Well, yes and no. Trump can do it, but there are limitations to it. And oh my God, I forgot how bright this. I need to turn on the brightness on the screen. Okay, we are going to go to, there we go. You guys are like, my face is like just getting blasted by the screen here. So This is the actual act itself. Garrett says, when the last batch of pardons drop? I don't know. Whenever they want to do it. Biden could do it at any point in time while he's still in charge. So he can sit there. Yes, thank you, Kurt. How you doing, Kurt? Kurt from Uncivil Law, the as the law is also known. As the law is also known. So, and by the way, guys, Kurt, friend of the show, Uncivil Law, guys, give him a like, give him a subscribe if you haven't yet. He does great stuff. So, what do we have here? Well, this is the actual law itself. If you guys are curious to know where it's at and what you're looking for here. And it was buried in a 110-page bill, as Congress loves to do and tends to do a lot. And here it is. And this is wrapped up in a part of other different things. So things I know that make your guys' hearts warm: an Israel Supplemental Appropriations Act, a Ukraine Supplemental Appropriations Act, the Indo-Pacific Security Approval Act, the Fend Off Fentanyl Act. I hate so many of these. The SHIP Act, the Fight Crime Act. It's like, there should be a law against this. There should be a law against this. The Massa Act. Yes, Massa. I know it's the Massa Act, but the Hamas and other Palestinian terrorist groups International Financing Prevention Act. Now, I'm pretty sure there were ways, like, it was already illegal to use U.S. means to finance terrorist organizations. That's why we have all the bank reporting laws and the Patriot Act, among other things. So, yeah, okay. The No Technology for Terror Act. Strengthening tools to counter the use of human shields Act. Just the way some of these are labeled. Is so ridiculous. And then we have the big one here. Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. That's what we got here. That's what we got. So this is what they're covering, and I know some of you guys are gonna, why can't this just be on its own? Well, that's just how they do it. If they really want to do it the right way, that's nothing else to say. Also, Kurt, if you're interested, I did send you a link if you'd like to join. So, but we're going to move on. We're going to move on back to the act itself. So we got to go into the 61st page of this thing. And we're going to get back to the act itself. So it says, it shall be unlawful for any entity to distribute, maintain, or update a foreign adversary controlled application by carrying out within the land or maritime borders of the U.S. any of the following: providing services to distribute, maintain, or update such foreign adversary controlled applications, including any source code, by means of a marketplace, including online mobile application stores. So that's how they're getting this. You aren't allowed to keep updating it. So which users within the land or maritime borders of the United States may access or maintain. You also, and that's okay. So you're going to say, all right, well, I also won't do anything inside the U.S. Well, just providing internet hosting services to enable it, you're not allowed to do that either. And it says for the applicability, it goes into effect 270 days after date of enactment. All right. So how do we... Guys, we do have a special guest. Kurt, how you doing? Welcome.
Great.
Yes. This is... We're about to get into...
I watched Donald Trump do YMCA with the Village People on stage.
Oh, you did? Oh.
It was great.
It's inspiring?
I was inspired.
Yes. Oh, I didn't get to that. I didn't get to any of that yet, but I'm sure it's stellar television. Um,
They were in full costume, which I thought was pretty hilarious.
oh, they were?
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
was
100%.
it like I know some of the village people are dead, but was it whoever constitutes them now, or was it just they hired some dancers to dress up like the village people?
I assumed it's what's left of the village people
Okay, cool. Well, that sounds like fun.
and their successors.
Yes. Now, as we said, they have 270 days of the date of the enactment to get this, and when it goes into effect. And there is a way Trump can extend it. But this is the qualifications you have to do. There has to be a path to executing a divestiture. Has been identified. There's evidence of significant progress towards executing the divestiture that has been approved. And there are in place the relevant legal agreements to enable execution of that. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, here's the neat thing about when you're president. I could do what I want when you're president. That's the neat part about it. Congress can say, oh, you can only do that. And then you can ignore them. That's the interesting part. Now, Congress has the power of the purse strings, but who's in charge of executing the laws? And this is where I thought the comments from the Speaker of the House, I don't know how long he's going to be the Speaker here. He had a comment.
It's a very dangerous thing. I think we will enforce the law. And when President Trump issued the Truth Post and said, save TikTok, the way we read that is that he's going to try to force along a true divestiture, changing of the hands, the ownership. It's not the platform that members of Congress are concerned about. It's the Chinese Communist Party and their manipulation of the algorithms. They have been flooding the minds of American children with terrible messages, glorifying violence and anti-Semitism and even suicide and eating disorders. I mean, crazy kind of stuff. And they're mining the data of American citizens. It's a very dangerous thing. The Chinese Communist Party is not our friend, and we have to make sure this changes hands. I'm really heartened to see that Google and Apple and Microsoft have taken the steps to comply with the law. There needs to be a sale of full divestiture from the Chinese Communist Party. And I think President Trump is the one that can make that deal happen.
So he's saying that it's going to happen here and he could force it. But remember, and I didn't hear him say it specifically in here, but the idea of Congress will enforce the law. Congress doesn't get.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Even if you go to court, you get an
him for
injunction.
not enforcing it?
Yeah. Well, even if you get an injunction against Trump. Okay. Enforce your injunction, sir. There's only so much they can do here. And that's going to be the problem. So those are the big issues here. And there are some other exemptions. Like if you've already started divestiture before this act went into effect, you're exempt from all of this. But they do bring up that, there are penalties.
$5,000 per user? Wow.
That's expensive. $5,000 by multiplying $5,000 by the number of users within the land or maritime borders of the United States. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. You know what? I wonder if they would I wonder if they could pay in Chinese yuan, because that actually might save them a little bit of money there. So, but as this goes on, those are the things they could do here. And it just to point out, and this is the thing, somebody asked me about this. What did the severability mean when they were reading it? Guys, all severability means is that should a court remove part of the statute, it does not affect the other provisions that can be given effect without it. So the invalidity of a part of this won't automatically kill it. Now, if you don't have this section in a bill when you pass it, if the court kills it, there's an argument that the entire thing dies because you didn't include that it can survive.
It seems to me most courts will go out of their way to sever if they can.
Yes, and that's the thing. Courts will always try to use the least restrictive and devastating means of handling something. So the court might argue the rest of this is fine, but there's also the argument other parties could come into court and say, well, it's dead because you didn't say that. So that's why you see severability now. I mean, in contracts, you see severability provisions, all of that. So that is how this is set up. Now, and the big thing somebody asked earlier in the chat was, if 50% of TikTok's owned by Americans, will that work? Well, here's the definitions. Controlled by a foreign adversary. Obviously, if they're, a foreign person that is domiciled in and headquartered in or organized under the laws of a foreign adversary country. That's an issue. With respect, which a foreign person or a combination of foreign persons described directly or indirectly own at least 20% stake. That's kind of an issue. So even if it's 50%, that's still, you would have to be over 80% U.S. ownership to make this not applicable in that situation there. But even then, there are other ways they could determine that. So merely 50-50 ownership, like if Elon Musk bought half of it, that would not alleviate this. I forget who asked that earlier, but I forgot to highlight it. That would not take care of this issue. And this goes on for... Kurt, did you go through this yet at all? The actual...
Sure.
I didn't know if you'd done this yet. But that's the thing, guys. The definitions here, it's, controlled. And
TikTok was specifically named.
Yes.
So that makes the analysis real easy. This only applies if we're trying to figure out whether or not a company is foreign controlled. But the bill specifically names TikTok and ByteDance, so it makes it real easy.
Yes, it does. It does.
So I can skip all this analysis.
Yes, it
does.
does.
Oh, geez, are they a cover company? I don't know. It specifically says TikTok. Oh, that makes that real easy.
I understand, but somebody had asked, well, like, what could they do to avoid this? And basically, the issue is it's the Chinese Communist Party's influence and control over the company. That would have to be removed because it's the foreign adversary part. It's not just the fact it's foreign is a problem. Foreign investors could own TikTok. Foreign investors could own ByteDance. The problem is the Chinese Communist Party has their fingers in it. That's the issue. A foreign government has its fingers in it. So, for example, there's a Russian version of Facebook called VK. VK could be owned by other parties, but the Russian government has influence over it, and that would be a foreign adversary.
Do they allow you to have it your way?
I don't believe so, Kurt. I don't. So. I don't. So.
No.
So, TikTok would never sign an NDA contract with the U.S. government. That's correct. They can never be owned. They can never be involved in that regard, guys. Just so you understand what we're looking at here, it doesn't take much to do this. And then finally, there's the last part. A person subject to the direction or control of a foreign person or entity described in subparagraph A. So even if there was an American face of TikTok,
which there is, that's TikTok.
What's that?
Which there is, that's TikTok.
Yes. Well, no, but I mean, like if TikTok was head of, they hired you to be the head of TikTok in America. You could say, look, I'm in charge of it. I own it, but I have to answer to the guys in Beijing. You're not really in charge, so therefore it's still a foreign adversary controlled organization. So now, obviously, this is all about TikTok. This is all about ByteDance. So they did sue. They sued back in May, and they got a pretty quick track to the Supreme Court at the end of the day.
Which wasn't particularly surprising.
Yeah, it's not because they have to address it.
It helped that the lawsuit started at the Court of Appeals. It also helped that the bill designated a singular venue, the Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit, so we didn't have to have a venue argument.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't know. I think that would have made sense, if they were going to do it anyway, because I don't think TikTok on its own would have done something different. So, and real quick, guys, if you didn't know, in response to all of this, people started going to, and this was kind of interesting. Apparently, this is not 100% true, this pilot, but people are going over to Rednote or Redbook, whatever you want to call it, and posting things. So using, it's not even that you're using an app the Chinese have a backdoor influence on. People are intentionally going to the app the Chinese government 100% has an influence on.
Which seems like a really strange choice, but okay.
Well, fuck you, Dad. I'll do what I want. So
I guess
now this is a really interesting thing because there are people in the military who have TikTok accounts, and if you're in the military or in certain government positions, the amount of ways TikTok can manipulate your phone and have access to it is astounding. And Red Note's even worse. Well, for example, she's in the cockpit of a C-17 transport plane. To take pictures, like, this is a sensitive military area. You can't just do that. And like this video, it's like, well, where was this video? Like, were these videos approved? Because like whatever's on these screens, you could get in deep shit for, even though you're like, oh, it's just a
what is the probability that this image contains classified information?
Actually pretty good. Like without permission from the Air Force, you could get kicked out for that. Like, I don't know. Who knows? There might be, for example, there could be like a radio channel on there that's classified, or who knows what they're doing actually. But that's like, you got to make sure of all that.
Do we need to have a discussion with our military members about OPSEC? Because damn.
Well, yeah, they're working on that. But yeah, it's like all this here, just all the avionics. I mean, was any of this approved by the government, like, by like intelligence community, like in that organization, to make sure it was all good? There was that one, and then where's the so it's just, there's things like that, and people, it's just like, really, what are you doing? And then over on Rumble, because we're over on Rumble tonight, Logistical Nightmare for $5 says, thank you, by the way, saying, with all the people flocking to Redbook, do you expect this issue to be ignited over that company for its parent company? Yes. It's going to get hit with this too. It's going to get designated the same way. Yeah. And then you're going to start having people, oh, well, fuck you, I'll do what I want. They're going to download VPNs and do things like that to access it.
I'd like to ask that military member a riddle. Ask him a riddle. What is another name for the king's closest advisor's leader?
Yes.
A court-martial. That was the joke.
Yes, I know. I thought it was a good one.
Okay.
Fire and Ice says, we are required an annual basis to conduct OPSEC training, and you can't click through it anymore. Oh, interesting. So that is, I mean, it's a growing issue. It's getting bigger and bigger as a problem here. They could track the plane. They could do all kinds of stuff. They could figure out where they went, and, it might not be a big deal at the end of the day, but yeah, I think people are immediately going to use Red Note, and then when they're told you can't use that, they're going to try to use a VPN to then go use Red Note or TikTok. And then I could see the government saying, well, now we have a problem with VPNs. VPNs are dangerous, which that's the only concern I have out of this, is how far will this go at the end of the day? Because like, if a lot of people start using VPNs and the VPNs were controlled by a foreign government, would the U.S. government be okay with that? And I don't know if they would. Who knows? I don't know.
It was my understanding, and I don't know because I didn't track myself, but that TikTok was trying to filter out people using VPNs based on like their records of where those user accounts were from.
Yeah, but I think if TikTok wants all the views and the revenue and all that, they're probably going to turn a blind eye to it in the meantime, because they're losing, 200 million, customers. And Stephen Cooper says, you ever have one of those years where your mother decides to metaphorically huff paint? No, but I kind of get the feeling this is going to be one of those years for all of us. Amateur Iconoclast said, would FARA be required if you're monetized on Red Note?
Only if you're an agent for them, acting on their behalf.
Well, yes, but then and that becomes an issue of, well, if you're participating in their algorithm and you're advertising yourself for people to come there, and they actively push propaganda and pro-Chinese stuff, would that constitute being an agent of the Chinese government? Because I get that's an issue. That's something I don't think has ever been decided in court. I wouldn't want to be the test case for that, because I could see them saying that would be applicable. I think you can make the argument that I'm not pushing what they're talking about. I'm saying, just come look at me. I'm not telling you to use the rest of the app, but I don't know how that would actually play out in court.
Does FARA extend beyond people trying to lobby the government?
Well, I mean, at some point, if you're out there, so like for like this, like tenant media thing,
yeah,
there were FARA violations there. You're being used by the Russian government to influence U.S. public opinion and influence politics.
Okay.
So I think that becomes a problem there.
I don't know the finer points of FARA, so you might have me on that one.
Well, and here's the thing. Originally, like for the longest time, even through World War II and through the Cold War, FARA was pretty mundane. Like if you found out like, oh, I'm subject to FARA, I would just register like afterwards. John Podesta's brother famously retroactively did a FARA registration. That happens sometimes, but it's not until Trump in 2016 going onwards, the DOJ, and it's not even necessarily a Trump's insistence, but like they went after Paul Manafort and other people like that. They've been really, really aggressive about FARA stuff. So, for example, everything going on in Ukraine, I think there are a lot of people who are, taking money from organizations and pushing messaging to either push for U.S. support in there or U.S. non-support there and influencing the politics and U.S. government policy. Like there are a lot of YouTubers who I bet have violated FARA because I've Googled them and I've Googled their LLCs and they don't have FARA filings. And it's like, and then there's just the whole issue of a lot of these media organizations of like who actually runs them and whether they're being funded by one government or another. So, there's a lot of people who are playing the FARA game right now. So we'll find out. That's a good question, Iconoclast. I don't know. And if you came to me with that issue, I would tell you to stay the fuck off Red Note. I tell you it's not worth it. I tell you to find a new job, learn to code or something. Garrett, you said once the last batch of pardons drop, they could drop right until the minute Joe Biden leaves the door.
11:59 a.m. That's the deadline.
As soon as he leaves the door, he can be like, boop. He could walk out the door, and as he's walking out, say, "Here you go, Jack," and as he's eating an ice cream cone. Kurt says it's the final countdown. Do 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 do. Yes, and then the legend says, "Won't enforce a ban he signed into law. What a genius." Well, that's because you know what? It's not like he could do anything in the meantime. The day and a half, it's on a weekend with a federal holiday. Besides, let it be Trump's problem. That's like a true politician, washing your hands of the issue. And Shugi showed, okay.
But right about now, he wishes Inauguration Day was still in March.
Yeah. Yes. Shugi show, okay, I did save this one. Okay. A buyer having 50% ownership, does that alleviate the security concerns? No. Because the CCP still has access to everything and controls it ultimately. Hold on, chat.
It is 9 p.m. on the East Coast. 15 hours to go.
Yes, chat. We've got a Clyde sighting here, and yes, he got his hair cut today. He got a herd. He's got his herd did. Commemoration of the great Dr. King. We got him a haircut. Oh, buddy, you're caught in your head. So, Chugi, I don't think it would change anything ultimately. Remember, it's even 20% interest is a problem. Patty's saying this has nothing to do with the law. TikTok is not controlled by Silicon Valley. That's a crime. Well, actually, that is the issue. They're not controlled by somewhere where the U.S. government has an interest. So the U.S. government can't tell them what to do. So you're right. I understand you're trying to say this is, and I'm sure Silicon Valley is not sitting there saying, oh, no, this law is so bad. Please don't do it. I mean, yes, Mark Zuckerberg is thrilled about this. Elon Musk, at the end of the day, is thrilled about this. Seeing one of their major competitors crash and burn is certainly not going to upset them. I don't know how you think about that, Kurt, but that's kind of what I'm thinking here.
I mean, I thought the law was legal. Supreme Court thinks the law is legal. I'm not 100% sure the First Amendment necessarily applies, but
I think he's
near there.
I think he's gotten me. I think he's gotten my headset.
I did enjoy watching some of the social media people like react to this news like it's the first time they ever heard it.
Yes.
It seemed to me. Some of the people were like,
it's been months
TikTok's
in the
going to be
making.
banned?
Yeah.
This is a crime. I'm like...
Yes. Also, chat,
Yeah.
you guys never get to see Lainey, but here she is. She's not shaking right now. That's good. Anyways, guys, you want to see Lainey? Here you go. It's been a little while. She got her hair done, too. And she got her nails done.
She had an extra dose of CBDs.
What's that?
She had an extra dose.
Oh, she did? Oh, she's like very chill.
Down for the groomers.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Thanks to the lovely future Mrs. Martin 2.0 for her help there. All right. But yes, Silicon Valley, yes, they have an incentive why they've done what they did. So it's not as though, like, I don't think anybody in Silicon Valley is like, oh, I love America. They're like, I want more money. Eddie B says, taka, taka, taka. And Dolly's saying, and thank you for being a member for 11 months, says she didn't post that on Red Note. She denied it. Well, I'm sure she's denying that now because, the Air Force is looking into it. But why was that shit posted anywhere it could be taken from to start with is probably what they're going to ask her. So Chugi Show also says, I experimented on it with VPNs. Access to it does not work. Oh. Okay, well, there you go, chat. VPNs don't work. And then Bad Weather Biker gifting 5 subs. Getting rid of the grays, chat. Some H1 green visas. Just keep it moving, grays. We're taking everything from you. We're taking your livelihoods. We're taking your identity. You're going to become a green one day. Thank you, Bad Weather Biker, for the support and your generosity. And before we get started, chat, we're going to get one last thing here. Logistical Nightmare says, any spicy pardon predictions? Joe's brother, Jill. Let's see, who else?
Himself?
And I'm sure, I could see that, but I could see Brennan. I could see Comey. And the ones for Joe Biden's brother, you guys, and the Joe Biden's brother one is going to go back to probably about 2008 because his brother did a lot of shady shit in the Iraq War. So we know that a lot of real estate deals. But yeah, Comey, Brennan, Peter Strzok, I bet. Who else? It's going to be a lot of those guys, a lot of those scumbags. A lot of those scumbags, chat, if I had to guess. The legend says Lamau. Well, yeah, it might be. Cheney and Schiff, I could see them too, but I don't know. I don't think he'll do that.
Cheney?
I hope she gets sold out. I hope she gets sold out.
I mean, I know they've been bosom buddies, but really, I don't think he's going to pardon Cheney.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny how much they are friends of the Cheney family now. And it's like, you called him Hitler back in the day.
We call everyone Hitler.
Yeah, I know, but it was funny back in the day. Could Merrick Garland get a pardon? I don't know. He's going to need one for that Tommy gun they tried to give him. I don't know if you saw that, Kurt. He had his retirement. And they're like, here you go. Here's a Tommy gun. And you're like, that's illegal within Washington, D.C. It's a felony. Had a high capacity, drum magazine on it and everything. And I'm pretty sure it was a short barreled rifle. The way it was set up.
Did it go through the right transfers?
Yeah, I doubt it did. I doubt it did. General Milley, yeah, but that wouldn't stop him from being disciplined under the military law, I believe. So he could still be disciplined.
I want a Tommy gun for retirement. That's cool.
So, yes, a bunch of DOJ hoes are going to be there. So, all right, guys, it's time to go. It's time to go here. Here we go. So this is the opinion. Supreme Court of the United States came out Friday, hot off the press. And it is 2 separate cases. It's TikTok versus Merrick Garland. The best attorney general ever. And then it's Brian Firebaugh versus Merrick Garland. And then this is TikTok, and this is mainly creators on TikTok. So, people fighting for your right to post cat memes. This is per curiam, chat, and that means it's not signed. So why didn't they want to put their names on this? Well, because they didn't want to. They don't have to. They don't have to sign any opinion. They don't have to put their names on anything if they don't want to. But they do this if they feel it's like a very kind of sticky subject at the end of the day. But they didn't have to. They didn't have to do it. So this is what they're talking about. And they say, as of January 19th, the PAF will make it unlawful for companies in the United States to provide services to distribute, maintain, or update the social media platform TikTok unless the U.S. operation of the platform is severed from Chinese control. The petitioners are two TikTok operating entities and a group of TikTok users. They consider whether the act as applied to the petitioners violates the First Amendment. They say doing so, and this is where they acknowledge they're all a bunch of tech boomers, we are conscious the cases before us involve new technologies with transformative capabilities. This challenging new context counsels caution on our part. As Justice Frankfurter advised 80 years ago, in considering the application of established legal rules to the totally new problems raised by the airplane and radio. And yes, chat, remember, those were problems too. Even the automobile, they had to create a special exemption for automobiles in the Fourth Amendment because cars were a brand new thing in the 20s. And then they say we should take care not to embarrass the future. Although I did listen to your coverage of the justices and oral arguments, and they already did a great job of embarrassing the future. Just listening to them talk about it. I don't know if ultimately you feel that way too, but it was very interesting listening to them talk about it.
I'm still stuck with Jeff Bezos' kids, to be honest, but that was the former Solicitor General's stupid remarks, not the justices.
Yes. Well, just in general, the whole thing was just interesting. And they say this caution is heightened in these cases, given the expedited time and our analysis must be there. So they talk about TikTok, and they say since its launch in 2017, it's got over 170 million users in the United States, more than 1 billion worldwide. Those users are prolific content creators and viewers. And in the 2023, 5.5 billion videos, which in turn were viewed more than 13 trillion times around the world. Those numbers are truly insane. And then I know that I feel like I'm in part of that because I'm like, oh, scroll. Like,
I've been doing live streaming to TikTok recently. That's been fun.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try that. And did you? Well, maybe I can't. Maybe I'll never get to do it.
Oh no, it's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah, did you enjoy it?
I'm planning on live streaming the inauguration tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, I will be too. It should be fun. It should be fun.
Snoop Dogg's going to perform. What?
Yeah, and I know people are going off of I forgot he had done that thing back in 2017 of the music video where he holds a gun up to like Trump's head. I know people are shitting their pants over that, and I'm like, oh well. We president now, that's all I care about. So they say when you open TikTok, in case you happen to be a boomer yourself out there, it brings the user to the For You page. Personalized content feed tailored to the user.
You'll also have to give them some credit here because there may come a time in the future when TikTok ceases to exist just through natural forces.
Yes.
And then people will forget what TikTok was or how it works. So
yes.
I mean, them describing the basics. It's like,
no, I agree.
This opinion has to stand for time. When it's like, what was it? What was a TikTok?
Yes. No, I definitely agree with that. But I'm just saying, if you happen to not understand what TikTok is, this is a great explanation. TikTok generates a feed using a proprietary algorithm that feeds, and guys, it's not what Al Gore does when he's playing the drums. Recommends videos to a user based on the interactions with the platform. Each interaction, watching a video, following an account, leaving a comment, enables the recommendation system to further tailor a personalized content feed. Yes, so if you're not careful, you end up with a bunch of cooking videos of people's dogs dying, and that could get really, really depressing very quick. So be careful how you comment and follow things. The content feed is also shaped by content moderation and filtering decisions.
Do the cooking videos teach me how to cook the dogs?
Only on Korean Talk. But there's every other kind of cooking talk out there, so maybe. TikTok uses automated and human processes to remove all of this. TikTok also promotes or demotes certain content to advance its business objectives and other goals. TikTok's operated in the U.S. by TikTok Incorporated, an American company incorporated and headquartered in California. Their ultimate parent company is ByteDance, a privately held company that has operations in China. ByteDance owns the proprietary algorithm, which is developed and maintained in China. The company is also responsible for developing portions of the source code that runs the TikTok platform. ByteDance is subject to Chinese laws that require it to assist or cooperate with the Chinese government's intelligence work, meaning the Ministry of State Security, guys, the MSS. We've talked about them before. And to ensure the Chinese government has the power and access to control private data the company holds. And that's the issue. You have to assist the Chinese government if you are a Chinese company. And if you get over a certain size, you have to have controlling people who own it as members of the Chinese Communist Party, because not everybody, just because you're in China doesn't mean you're a member of the Communist Party. Being a member of the Communist Party also doesn't mean you just pay your dues. That you have to have prominent people in the Communist Party. So loyal communists, loyal party men are involved. So and they move on here. We're gonna kip through a little of this here. So in 2020, Trump issued an executive order finding the widespread, the spread in the United States of mobile applications developed and owned by companies continues to threaten national security, foreign policy, and economy in the United States. And that was executive order. And you can go check this out, Chad, if you want to see it. 13942. And then it's also in the Code of Federal Register. You can go look it up. It's there. Trump determined that TikTok raised concerns, noting the platform automatically captures vast swaths of information from its users. Yes, TikTok has access to almost everything on your phone. You give it access to everything on your phone, basically. And it's susceptible to being used to further the interests of the Chinese government. So at that point, Trump invoked his authority under the International Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA, and the National Emergencies Act to prohibit certain transactions involving ByteDance or its subsidiaries as identified by the Secretary of Commerce. The Secretary published a list of prohibited transactions in September, but federal courts enjoined the prohibitions before they took effect, finding they exceeded the authority under the IEEPA. So, yes, Trump's like, oh, I'm going to take care of it. And the court's like, no, you can't do it. But now we're going to take care of it.
Yeah, the Congress gave him authority. It's like, yes, he can.
Yes.
And then the court's like, fine. That's
yes.
how that's supposed to work.
Yes. So days just after issuing this, President Trump ordered ByteDance to divest all of its interest and any rights in any property, use or enable support to TikTok application in the United States, along with any data obtained or derived from its U.S. users. Well, I mean, let's be real, guys. The data doesn't go away. It's there forever. So you can't get rid of it. In February 2021, the D.C. Circuit placed a case in abeyance to permit the Biden administration to review the matter and to enable the parties to negotiate a non-divestiture remedy that would address the government's national security concerns. Well, yeah, that didn't exactly work out. So throughout 2021 and 2022, they negotiated with the executive branch to develop a national security agreement that would resolve this. Ultimately, though, the proposed agreements did not adequately mitigate the risk proposed to U.S. national security interest. Negotiations stalled, and there was never an agreement. So in the meantime, Congress enacted the PATH, which made it unlawful for any entity to provide certain services to distribute and maintain a foreign adversary-controlled application in the United States. Entities are subject to civil enforcement. Oh no, civil enforcement! Not we'll send the SEALs after you, or we'll put a cruise missile in your building. No, we're gonna fine you. Which I'm sure scares foreign people that you don't have control over. So the act provides two means which an application may be designated a foreign adversary. First, the act designates any application that is operated directly, indirectly by ByteDance or TikTok. So yes, you can cheat and just say, oh, well, it's these two. But let's say they change their name to Schmick. And then second, the act establishes the general framework, the general designation framework. And an application that is both, remember, it's got to be both, operated by a covered company that's controlled by a foreign adversary, and 2, determined by the president to present a significant threat to the national security of the United States, following a public notice and reporting process. So this allows you to challenge it, but there has to be a public notice. So any designation like that would be going through the notice and comment period. So in broad terms, it covers a company that has, more than 1 million monthly active users. So,
or TikTok.
Yes, or TikTok. But let's pretend, like, let's say you start a Schmick, and you have North Korean money involved. Well, actually, that'd be bad because they're embargoed. But Swahili, you have Lesotho. You start Schmick in Lesotho, and even though it may be operated by the Lesotho government, if Joe Biden or Trump determine that the Lesotho government or the Botswana government are not a national security threat, then it doesn't matter. But yes, it's TikTok. So it takes effect 270 days after the after an application is designated a foreign adversary controlled application. And, because the act itself designates ByteDance and TikTok, there's 270 days, and that means January 19th, 2025. Today. The only way to get out of it is a qualified divestiture. And it's one that the president determines will result in the application no longer being controlled by a foreign adversary. Now, somebody did ask me, is it legal for Congress to say it's up to the president to determine what's controlled by a foreign adversary? And I would argue yes, because once you get into the issues of national security, you're already into giving the executive branch a lot of authority anyway, because they're the ones who get to decide truly what are national security threats and interests.
Youngtown Steel, baby.
Yes. The president further must determine the divestiture precludes the establishment or maintenance of any operational relationship between the United States and any formerly affiliated entities or controlled by a foreign adversary with respect to the operation of a content recommendation algorithm or an agreement with respect to data sharing. You can do a one-time extension of no more than 90 days unless the president does more, and you can't stop him. The president makes much. And here's the thing. I don't think the president can be forced to make certifications to Congress regarding progress towards a divestiture. I mean, I know there's some acts where the president has to, like the War Powers Act and stuff like that. But even then, people have argued whether or not that's constitutional. But I don't know if they can really force him to make a certification of him using executive power that he has to certify to Congress that he's doing it in a certain way. I don't know. Do you know the answer to that, Kurt?
No, off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yes, guys, apparently the VPNs don't work, so sorry, you can't get your cat.
Most VPNs work, but that brings us to tonight's sponsor.
Yes. Well, chat, you know where you don't need a VPN to go to? Chat, you don't need a VPN to go to Stoney's Bar and Grill. That's right, chat. At 158 East Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota, chat. Stoney's is your place to go. They had a great weekend this week. They had Grunge Box last night. It was a great time, apparently. They're talking about on Facebook. But anyways, you can stop by Stoney's this afternoon. You can visit with Joe. You have one of the famous Ultimate Bloody Marys. And it might even be a crappy song being played today on Sunday.
I'm not really a Bloody Mary fan. I think I'm more in it for the 250 cans.
Yeah. Well, I'm still so sad with the Biden inflation. They had to raise the price.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I told Aaron they need to reduce it to like $2 for your first can, so I can still say $2 cans, because that would work better. But anyways, guys, it's only 8:21 in Minnesota right now. Get on over to Stoney's. They're open till midnight. You can get tore up just chugging Bloody Marys. I mean, if you show up with a funnel and some plastic pipe, I don't think they'll prevent you from, bonging Bloody Marys as long as you're paying for them. So think about it, chat. It's Stoney's serving Minnesota as the best biker bar in Minnesota for 30 years.
Is it okay to go there if I don't own a bike?
Yes. You're allowed to go in there if you don't own a bike.
Cool.
You're just not allowed on the patio.
Noted.
So. And guys, we're going to skip the issues here about what happened in the court. So we're going to, they ultimately decided though in the DC circuit that the act was subject to intermediate scrutiny and was constitutional under that standard. And then they granted certiorari. And obviously they did if they're writing it.
In the Court of Appeals, they assume strict scrutiny applied.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, they did. Sorry.
I remember my procedural
I'm sorry.
history.
Chief Judge Srinivasian concurred, but he said it should be intermediate.
Yeah, okay.
So, and they say they determined that actually here, what? Who just texted me? What the heck? It's weird. And got a notice for nothing. They say at the threshold they must consider whether the challenge provisions are subject to First Amendment scrutiny. And ultimately, yeah, the government's saying you can't do something. So they have to start there. They say laws that directly regulate expressive conduct can but do not necessarily trigger such review.
Yeah, because if it regulates it, it depends whether it's about that conduct or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have also applied to First Amendment scrutiny in cases involving governmental regulation of conduct that has an expressive element. And that's true. And to some statutes, which although directed activity with no expressive component, impose a disproportionate burden upon those engaged in protected activity. And they say it's not clear the act itself directly regulates protected expressive activity or conduct with an expressive component. They say the act does not regulate the creator petitioners at all. And that's true. This doesn't affect whoever's doing it. It just says you can't do it here. It's just like bike dance can't work here. It's not stopping you from making your cat pictures. You can go do it wherever you want. Just this is not an acceptable place. The act directly regulates bike dance and TikTok. So that's the difference here. Nobody's stopping you from doing it. Kurt, nobody's stopping you from live streaming on TikTok. They're not stopping you from live streaming. You just can't use TikTok. The petitioners, for their part, have not identified any case in which the court has treated a regulation of corporate control as a direct regulation of expressive activity or semi-expressive conduct. And the court says we hesitate to break that new ground in this unique case. And that's actually something that guys should respect. The court's not willing to go out and create something wacky and zany in this case.
No.
If the court can settle it through other means, they should, and they shouldn't be trying to make new and novel law. I've said that before. This is not their time. There may be a time for that, but it's usually not when you might want it.
No, you want to do it slowly.
Yes.
Methodically.
Yes. They say in any event, the arguments more closely approximate a claim that the act's prohibition, specifically the TikTok divestiture, impose a disproportionate burden on their First Amendment activities. And they assert, and the government doesn't contest it, because it is commercially infeasible for TikTok to be divested. The act effectively bans TikTok in the United States. Well, they've had years and years to do this, and if they really wanted to do it, they could get it done. So the petitioners argue that such a ban will burden various First Amendment activities, including content moderation, content generation, access to a distinct medium for expression, association with another speaker or preferred editor, and a receipt of information and ideas. Yes, chat. Your expression of building an N-word tower. That is being fought for here. They're fighting for your rights for that, chat. I'm seeking a Syrian plant. Oh, chat, what am I going to do with you guys? So
you can always turn off chat.
Yes. They've recognized a number of these cases asserted First Amendment interest, and they're going back through other cases here. They talk about Entities exercising editorial discretion in the selection and presentation of content are engaged in speech activity. So notice they're going through the content moderation and arguing that is speech at times. And they go through a couple different cases here, chat, and they get to the end of this, and that an effective ban on a social media platform with 170 million U.S. users certainly burdens those users' expressive activity in a non-trivial way. The right to keep and bear cat pictures shall not be infringed, chat. The right of the people to twerk as necessary to a functioning society, to shitpost and have cat pictures shall not be infringed. I think that's in the Constitution. I think it is, Kurt. So at the same time, a law targeting a foreign adversary's control over communication platform is in many ways different in kind from the regulations of non-expressive activity we have subjected to First Amendment scrutiny. And they say these differences, the focus on a foreign government, that Congress determined the adversary relationship between that government and the United States. Yeah, and that's a big deal. We're not just talking about, TikTok is an app. We're talking about the fact that it's a country we are likely to be at war with and is a significant adversary of ours. The causal steps between the regulations and the alleged burden on speech may impact whether the First Amendment scrutiny applies. And they say that we have not articulated a clear framework for determining whether a regulation of non-expressive activity that disproportionately burdens those engaged in expressive activity triggers heightened review. They say we don't need to do that here. We haven't laid out that standard and we don't have to. And they can assume without deciding that the challenge provisions fall within this category and are subject to First Amendment scrutiny.
Which I think is perfectly fair, particularly given the condensed time frame.
Yes. And you know what? And I think at the end of the day, they would. I think that makes 100% sense anyway. We don't have the time to do it, and we need to get this done. And they say at the heart of the First Amendment lies a principle that each person should decide for himself or herself the ideas and beliefs of expression, consideration, and adherence. Government action that suppresses speech because its message contravenes this right. True. And there are content-based laws that target speech on its communicative content, and they're presumptively unconstitutional and may be justified only if the government proves they are narrowly tailored to serve compelling state interests. Then there's content-neutral laws, guys. And notice, there are times where they can stop you for the content, but they have to be narrowly tailored and very, very specific in what they're doing, and it has to serve a compelling state interest. A content-neutral law, they're subject to an intermediate level of scrutiny because in most cases, they don't pose that substantial risk of exercising certain ideas or viewpoints from the public dialogue. I'm sorry, excising, not exercising. And they say under that standard, they will sustain a content-neutral law if it advances important government interest unrelated to the suppression of free speech and does not burden it any more than necessary. So they've identified the two forms of content-based speech. They say, first, a law is content-based if it's on its face, applies to a particular speech because of the topic discussed or the idea or message expressed. So that's why this is the tougher one for the government to make arguments for. They say a facially content-neutral law is nonetheless treated as content-based if it cannot be justified without reference to the content of the regulated speech, or it was adopted by the government because of a disagreement with the message the speech conveys. And this goes back to a case of rock against racism, chat, because apparently there wasn't enough. Apparently there was rocking for racism, I guess. As applied to petitioners, the challenge provisions are facially content neutral and are justified by a content neutral rationale. So what does that mean, chat? It's over. That's their point of saying they're content neutral and they have a justification that doesn't involve the speech. It's a national security issue. Now, the challenge provisions are facially content neutral. They impose specific prohibitions due to a foreign adversary's control over the platform and make divestiture a prerequisite. They don't target particular speech based on its content or contrast. Upon its content, contrast that or regulate speech based on its function or purpose. And they say, once again, they're contrasting other cases here. It says, nor do they impose a restriction, penalty, or burden by reason of content on TikTok. And they say it's a conclusion confirmed by the fact that petitioners cannot avoid or mitigate the effects of the act by altering their speech.
That's a pretty important point, right? The
Yes.
fact that there's nothing TikTok can do in terms of changing the algorithm or
Yes.
changing what they post.
Yes.
That would solve the problem. It's
Or even the content creators. Can
Right.
you guys do anything to change this? No. Is there anything you have to say? No. Is there anything you have to do? No. Is there anything you can do? No. So,
Yeah.
yes. What are you guys talking about over in chat?
Some bullshit, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, they're talking about Taka. I still don't know what the hell that is. I don't know if people are talking about that in your chat at all. They're like Taka, Taka, Taka. I'm like,
I don't know what Taka is, and I don't fucking care.
I don't know if I want to know what Taka is.
Taka is Scar's real name.
Whose? Scar's real name is Taka?
Who's Scar?
Well then why are we?
Yeah, what they're referring to, that's what it is. That's what I'm going with.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Who's
so
Scar?
apparently, I don't know if you
Who's-
guys all heard that. It's Scar's real name, but
Who's Scar?
Scar and the Lion King. Like
Oh.
Mufasa and Scar.
Okay.
Simba.
Why are we talking about the Lion King?
I don't. Well, they're talking about Taka in. They're talking about Taka in chat. They've been talking about it for a couple of days, and I don't know what Taka is, and they won't tell me. So,
Okay.
yes, they say so. And ultimately, guys, this is the issue for TikTok. Even the creators. If you stop twerking, does that help? No. If you stop posting cat videos, does it help? No. If you stop posting cooking, does it help? No. Can you put a disclaimer on there saying, fuck the Chinese government? No, that does not help. It doesn't fix any of this. So there's nothing you can do to change how the government's going to look at this. They don't care what you're doing. And they say the act does not facially regulate particular speech because of the topic discussed or the idea or message expressed. And that's true. You can do whatever you want on TikTok. They don't care. It's the fact the Chinese government has its fingers in what TikTok is doing. Now, the content creators at TikTok argue the act is content-based because it excludes from the definition of covered company any company that operates an application whose primary purpose is to allow users to post product reviews, business reviews, or travel information and reviews. And they say, we don't need to decide whether that exclusion is content-based. And they say the question before the court is whether the act violates the First Amendment as applied to them. So, yes, and that's part of the issue. When you're saying it, when you're applying it to me, it's not fair. Well, it doesn't matter what it could do to other people. You're the one screaming about it's all about us. And to be fair, even the law says it's all about you.
Yes, it's not a paranoid when they really are out to get you.
Yes. No. The government's like, look, the Supreme Court's like, look, we understand this is all about you. So it doesn't matter what these other people do. And I can't imagine, like, there's no other companies. And that's the thing, like, no other apps people use are controlled by a foreign, hostile foreign adversary at this point. I mean, even if, that's the big thing here, but it's just set for the future. So that's the thing. I don't even think TikTok could find other organizations that this is a problem for because none exist, but that doesn't make the law invalid. And they say to answer this question, we must look at the provisions of the act to give rise to the effective ban that petitioners argue burn their First Amendment rights. The exclusion for certain review platforms, however, applies only to the general framework for designating applications controlled by covered companies, not to the TikTok-specific designation. Yes, so once again, it doesn't matter because there's the TikTok provision. As such, the exclusion is not within the scope of the as-applied challenge. And you have to think about how bad do you have to fuck up? They have to put your name in the law. Specifically, Sean is not allowed to do something. And we're just saying everybody else, but specifically Sean. Specifically Sean.
Now, there's actually a name for that when
Yes.
they pass a bill for
Yes.
like a specific person.
Yes. Yes, ex post facto. But in this
I was thinking about
situation-
something. I was thinking about
Bill of
something actually a
Attainder?
little bit more. I was actually thinking about the term of a private bill
Oh,
as
yes.
opposed to a public bill,
Yes. Okay.
which
I'm
is
sorry.
some every once in a while Congress will pass a law that is meant to affect designated people,
Yes.
and so that's called a private bill. So
Yes. God, I can't believe I said ex post facto. I'm such a dumb.
that's fine. You're doing fine.
I know I'm an idiot, but yes, it'd be a bill of attainder when you're specifically going after a person. And somebody actually asked me about this on Friday, and I said, no, this isn't the same thing. There's
The Court of
justification
Appeals said it
behind
wasn't because first, they're not sure bills of attainder, the prohibition applies to corporations.
Yes.
So there's that issue. And second of all, it's not
Mhm.
criminal in its nature.
Yes, and
It's civil,
and it's
which
civil
also-
only, and
Yeah,
that's
so doesn't work.
that's the other thing. And I said maybe you can consider a corporation people, but I don't think that will the Supreme Court would buy that. And ultimately, the Supreme Court, even if that were all raised, Supreme Court's they're gonna figure out a way. They'll distinguish it.
They
can always
punted on
distinguish.
they ignored the ex post facto issue. They
Yeah.
ignored the bill of attainder issue. They
Yes.
ignored the taking issue.
Yes.
They focused completely on the First Amendment issue. Like, yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
Yeah, and that's the neat thing. They don't have to discuss it. And it's not like you can appeal that. You're like, Justice Roberts, you didn't address this matter. I know. I didn't want to. And that's it. So the government also supports the challenge provisions with a content-neutral justification, preventing China from collecting vast amounts of data from 170 million users. Yep. That rationale is decidedly content agnostic, and neither references the content of the speech on TikTok nor reflects a disagreement with the message that speech conveys. And they say that holding noise control and sound quality justifications behind city sound guidelines were content neutral. And it wasn't that you couldn't make rock music, it's just you couldn't be too loud. Let's say because data collection justification reflects a purpose unrelated to the content of expression, it is content neutral. And that's fair enough. Yeah, it's content neutral here. So the Act's TikTok specific distinctions, moreover, do not trigger strict scrutiny. They say it's true that speech based on the identity of the speaker are all too often a means to control content, and that's true. And they say for that reason, regulations that discriminate among media or among different speakers often present serious First Amendment concerns. And they say while laws favoring some speakers over others demand strict scrutiny, when the legislator presents a content preference, it's not warranted when the difference is justified by some special characteristics of the particular speaker being regulated. And that's the thing. Facebook is not controlled by a foreign adversary. Twitter is not controlled by a foreign adversary. There's the South African government doesn't tell Elon, like, you must give us control over everything. So that's the difference here, guys. It's the difference is the Chinese government is in control of TikTok. If other companies were under the control of the Russian government or the North Korean government, they would qualify as well. But let's say you're under the control of the Japanese government. Well, we're not an adversary, Japan, so that would be okay.
For the moment.
Yes. For now, chat. For now. But if we ended up having problems with the Japanese government in 20 years, if there was an app the Japanese government had control over, that would then become one subject to divestiture or being banned. For example, if the French came out with one and that the French government had influence over. For now, we are not at war with France. We're not adversaries of France, but that can change. I know some of you are thinking that'd be based. But at that point, we would have to tell the company, divest yourself from French control or here's the door. So that's the difference. Hella says no one likes the French. Well, Zaxarian says, are the Japanese planning a sequel to Pearl Harbor? Well, they renamed one of their. They have one of their helicopter carriers that is named the Kaga, and they already had a carrier named that. So They're getting a little itchy down there. Got to be careful. You have to be careful. But yes, for now, chat. For now, I like how you phrase that, Kurt. Oh,
Yeah, it's not like this. It's not like that's ever been a problem before.
yes. They say, for the reason we have explained, requiring divestiture for the purpose of preventing a foreign adversary for acquiring sensitive data is not a subtle means of expressing a content preference. And that's the thing. If they had said if they had preferred one over the other, that might still be an issue. But even then, the issue of the national security concern is going to override. They say the prohibitions and divestiture requirement regulate TikTok based on a contract-neutral data collection interest. And TikTok has special characteristics: a foreign adversary's ability to leverage control over the platform to collect vast amounts of personal data from U.S. users. That's the reason why they're getting treated differently. And they say distinctions of this nature are not presumed invalid under the First Amendment. And that's true. They find the differential treatment is justified because they emphasize the inherent narrowness of the holding. And they want to say there, data collection and analysis is a common practice, but TikTok's scale and susceptibility to foreign adversary control, together with the vast swaths of sensitive data the platform collects, justify differential treatment to address the government's national security concerns. That's why it's different. They're not saying companies can't collect your data. And as I said, Chad, as long as it's not a foreign adversary control, a Japanese company could do everything TikTok does. A French company could do everything TikTok does. I would say a Canadian company, but I don't know how long that would be valid. If you start a Canadian TikTok and you're allowing Justin Trudeau access to all the data, for now, that is correct. That said, though, Runkle, I do welcome you as a future U.S. citizen, as a fellow brother. Soon you will join us, and I can't wait. So that day will come. I don't know when, but I know it will come soon.
We're going to make you swear fealty at the sword.
Yes. Well, I'm sure Runkle will be like, I brought my own sword. Here we go. They say a law targeting any other speaker would by necessity entail a distinct inquiry and separate considerations. And they say, on this understanding, we cannot accept the call for strict scrutiny. No more than intermediate scrutiny is in order. So strict scrutiny is out the window, chat. Just intermediate scrutiny.
And right about here, that TikTok is just screwed.
Yes, an intermediate scrutiny. Oh, yeah, well, that's it, chat. Because intermediate scrutiny, how does that work? Well, the challenge provisions further an important government interest, unrelated to suppression of free speech, and do not burden substantially more speech than necessary to further that interest. Basically, it's you guys might say, well, that sounds like it's the government's, the court would, intermediate scrutiny is never a good sign because the court will find a lot of ways to justify it.
Yeah.
So it's not where you want to be.
Particularly because it just has to sufficiently advance the interest.
Yes. And
as opposed to strict scrutiny where you basically have to accomplish the interest.
Yes. Does this advance the interest? Yes. Does it do it well? Doesn't matter. Just is it trying to?
Yeah.
You just have to try real hard, chat.
And then like a lot of the people are like, what about? And I'm like, a lot of it is whataboutism. It's people are like, well, they didn't ban Temu or they didn't ban this or they didn't ban Facebook. I'm like, well, first of all, they could have. And second of all, as the courts have pointed out, they're not under an obligation to necessarily fix all the problem all at once.
Yes. And they could ban Temu tomorrow. But Temu it depends on what Temu does with all the data. If Temu hoovers up all this data, Temu could get banned tomorrow. It all depends. Or the government might determine you buying garbage that doesn't work, might be a secure the
non-shitty Commerce Act.
Yes.
You can't buy shit anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. By being involved in they're sabotaging our economy with shitty equipment. You're stealing money and it's funding the Chinese government. So they go on to talk about the prohibitions and divestiture requirement are designed to prevent China, a designated foreign adversary, from leveraging control over ByteDance to capture the personal data of users. And this objective qualifies as an important governmental interest under intermediate scrutiny. And this is the issue. TikTok does not dispute the government has an important and well-grounded interest in preventing China from collecting all the personal data, nor could they. The platform collects extensive personal information from and about its users. Public reporting says the practice extend to age, the phone number, your precise location, your internet address, device use, phone contacts, social network connections, and the content of private messages sent through the application and videos watched. But there's a lot more to it than that. They note that TikTok collects user data, user content, behavioral data, including keystroke patterns and rhythms. So it's trying to figure out, chat, not only what you type, but how you type. We've talked about
how many
this.
hands.
Yes. Chat, we mentioned this before, and I don't mean to use the Nick thing here, but when we looked at those motions that were drafted, you could tell that they were written by different people, and different people use different verbiage. They use different punctuation and style and formatting. Well, just how you type a message to someone, for example, if you're texting your mom and dad and they responded to you in a way that seems weird, you'd be like, huh. And they'd say, for example, hey, my friend I was getting my, 2.0, this happened once. She was in the middle of something and one of her friends texted her and she told me to text him back. And she said, tell him, yeah, I'll see you there. And I typed it out and they said, huh, that's not how you would normally say that. And they realized something was up. They're learning everything about you. They're learning everything about you. So not just your device and network data.
Getting to know all about you.
Very appropriate. Also, your device contacts and your calendars. They're going to find out when you're getting your colonoscopy, chat, or finding out when you're getting your nails done. For example, you can allow access to your user phone contact list to connect with other users on the platform. And TikTok can access any data stored in the user's contact list, including names, contact information, contact photos, job titles, and notes. And access such information, the government worries, may enable China to check the locations of federal employees and contractors. It built dossiers of personal information for blackmail and conduct corporate espionage. Yes. Or military personnel. And not only just blackmail, but if you're trying to get somebody's patterns and what they do.
Was it Strava way back in the day where they were accidentally exposing secret military bases because of people's running data?
Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff. I mean, even stuff
they
like
were
that.
Laying out the maps,
people logging their runs. And it's they're revealing the bases, where they are, and the format of the base. It's this is great. Yeah.
And chat, it's not only this, but let's say China wanted to go to war and they want to target somebody and they want to kill that people or that groups of people. Well, now they have the data of where they go every day, where they are when they're at home, and if they want to launch a surprise attack. It's patterns. People have their patterns. It's an intelligence task. It's a tactic. You figure out the patterns of what they do, and then you exploit those. And Chinese law enables China to require companies to surrender data to the government, making companies headquartered there an espionage tool of China. Yes. Rather meaningfully, the dispute of the scope of the data TikTok collects or the ends to which it may be used, petitioners contest probability, asserting that it's unlikely that China would compel TikTok to turn over its user data. Since China has more effect, and I love this argument. Oh, don't worry, they've already infiltrated us so many other ways.
First of all, I think it's pretty effective. Second of all, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, look, it may be effective, but look, they're already here. Let's not lie about it. Does it really matter? They say, and so there's other ways of them obtaining relevant information. They say in reviewing the Constitution of the Act, they must accord deference to the predictive judgments of Congress. And they say policymaking often requires legislators to forecast future events and to anticipate the likely impact of those events based on deductions and inferences for which complete empirical support may be unavailable. And that's true. A law can't be 100% accurate in forecasting what it needs to do. They say that China has engaged in extensive and years-long efforts to accumulate structured data sets, in particular on U.S. persons, support its intelligence and counterintelligence operations. And I say, even if China has not yet leveraged its relationship with ByteDance, the data there's no basis for concluding the government's determination that China might not do so is at least a reasonable inference based on the evidence. Yes. And they say that we understand this law arises in a context in which national security and foreign concerns arise in connection with efforts to confront evolving threats in an area where information can be difficult to obtain and the impact of conduct difficult to assess. And they say we thus afford the government's informed judgment substantial respect here. And guys, like I said, normally I think the government's got bullshit requirements and bullshit excuses when they do things, but this stuff does make sense. Because let's be real. Oh, well, the Chinese government hasn't asked us for all our data. Well, they can whenever they want to, and you can't stop it. And we won't know when it happens. Even if you were to make a requirement of, oh, well, TikTok has to inform when that happens. Do you think that they're going to inform when that actually happens? No. And yes, the amount of data out there is massive just by carrying your phone around on a daily basis. Even if you can't take it into a skiff. And if you guys remember in 13 Hours, like when there was the phone rack outside the skiff room. Even just putting your phone in that and not taking it into the controlled area. Well, you now showed where the controlled area is because where do all the phones congregate? That must be an important area because the phones don't go in there. So there are a lot of problems with how TikTok and your phones operate. Yeah, bold of them believe China asked and just doesn't have an employee dump everything on a Chinese server. Well, yeah, I'm assuming that's the other way as well, Chaopathic. Somebody's on there just, hoovering it up regardless. That wouldn't surprise me either. It wouldn't surprise me either. Patty saying this is BS. Ron Paul said these. What? I don't know what Ron Paul said.
Ron Paul says lots of things.
Yes, Ron Paul has said Uncle Ron has said a lot of things that are important, but no, hoovering it up like Aaron. Yes, very good. Very good. Not Dyson.
What did you think about the fact that Kayla's charges are being dropped?
Oh, you mean April's?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm I'm surprised to an extent because when I was a prosecutor, we wouldn't do that because at that point you're kind of telling the whole world hey, you can you're telling the whole county you can punk us a little bit and we'll drop charges like this. I mean, unless there was some sort of thing there where I can imagine there might be some evidentiary thing that pops up, but ultimately you're kind of signaling in the county we'll tolerate this even though we all know it's nonsense. Because this isn't one where there was people could see it multiple ways. It's she was they found her with the stuff. So
they found her in the same place as the stuff.
Yeah, with her credit cards covered in the stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be very tough for them to, it could, once again, it's what is a plausible argument here? And because remember, possession does not mean necessarily you're holding it right that second. Can you exercise dominion and control over it? And a reasonable person could infer the fact you have credit cards used in it, that you're in possession.
Well, there's something noble somewhere about him apparently trying to negotiate for getting April off. So
yeah, well, I don't know if that's noble, really.
That's nice.
Yeah, but no, I'm surprised they're.
He was able to get his mistress off, but not his wife. Lol.
Well, see, that's not true because Kayla's thing set out really far, and I have some ideas on. I've talked to a couple of people about what I think is happening there. So I won't say until it happens. But setting it out to June, that's a 6-month window. That's a very specific kind of time frame there of why would we need that much time? But I have a feeling that something's going to work out for her, probably in a fairly positive way.
Good for her.
But it requires time. So we'll see what happens. So, and the petitioners further argue the act is under-inclusive to the government's data protection concern, raising doubts of whether the government is actually pursuing that interest. In particular, they focus on applications with user-generated and user-shared content. And they say other applications that are as capable as TikTok of collecting the data. And yes, this is the point where they talk about Facebook and everyone else. But yes, the First Amendment imposes no freestanding under-inclusiveness limitation. And the government doesn't have to take care of all the problems in one fell swoop.
Yep.
But even then, everybody else that would qualify in the rarefied air of like the size of TikTok have governmental control. Like the U.S. government is ultimate, like they're U.S. companies. We like it. We know this. Mark Zuckerberg even talked about it. U.S. government officials screaming and hollering at him to censor things. We know that happens. We know there were issues with Twitter and the U.S. government operating. So it's not as a problem there. And like I said, other than Temu, I can't imagine what else is out there that might even qualify at this point. They say, furthermore, as we concluded, the government had good reason to single out TikTok for special treatment. And that's usually not something you're going to hear the Supreme Court saying, oh, there was a good reason for special treatment for this individual. Say, on this record, Congress is justified in specifically addressing TikTok-related national security issues. And they say, as applied, the act is sufficiently tailored to address the government's interest, the compelling interest, the foreign adversary from collecting vast swaths of sensitive data. They say, the regulation doesn't need to be the least restrictive means of advancing the government's interest. Rather, the standard is so long as the regulation promotes a substantial government interest that would be achieved less effectively absent the regulation. And it does not burden substantially more speech than is necessary. And they say the provisions clearly serve the government's data collection interests in a direct and effective way. And they say, absent the divestiture, TikTok's very operation in the United States implicates the government's data concerns. While the requirements make divestiture qualified, ensure those concerns are addressed before the TikTok resumes U.S. operations. And it says, neither the prohibitions nor the divestiture requirement, moreover, are substantially broader than the necessary to achieve the national security objective. Rather than banning it outright, it's a conditional ban. The prohibitions prevent China from gathering data on TikTok users. And this is funny. I like how they phrase it here. China's banned from gathering data unless and until the qualified divestiture severs China's control. So does that mean if China was able to get access to the data anyway? Like, if TikTok just turned around and said, well, here you go. Because they're saying it's preventing China unless there's no more Chinese control. And the way they phrase that, it's almost like what you're saying, like if China got it through other means, is that okay?
Well, they still have control over the algorithm.
Yes, I know, but just the way they phrase that almost implies like there's a way that China could get the data that would be acceptable to the Supreme Court. I know that's not what they mean, but you could just trying to say, well, you didn't say that. I know that, Alito would say, shut up, you shithead, but I'm still going to make fun of it. And they say petitioners parade a series of alternatives, disclosure requirements, data sharing restrictions, proposed national security agreements. Yes, honest, Chinese government will not steal data. The general designation provision they assert would address the government's concern. Those alternatives do not alter our tailoring analysis. And they say the proposed alternatives ignore the latitude we afford the government to design regulatory solutions to address content-neutral interests. And they said so long as the means chosen are not substantially broader than necessary to achieve the government's interest, the regulation will not be invalid simply because the court concludes the government's interest could be adequately served by some less restrictive alternative. And they say for the reasons we have explained, the challenge provisions are not substantially broader than necessary to address the government's concerns. Nor did the government ignore less restrictive approaches already proven effective. And they talk about in McCollum v. Coakley, where the state burdened substantially more speech than necessary, where the state had not considered less restrictive measures successfully adopted by their jurisdictions. Well, there's no other way to control TikTok, and nobody else. There's no other way. There's no other third path, chat. There's no other third path available that works. The validity of the challenge provisions does not turn on whether we agree with the government's conclusion that its chosen path is the best or most appropriate. And that's because they can't place the government's judgment respecting these regulations with our own so long as its policy is grounded on factual findings supported by evidence that is substantial for a determination. Because there might be a better answer out there, but the government made a reasonable answer based on the facts in front of them. Those requirements are not met here. Those requirements are met here, sorry. Anything you want to add, Kurt? Or are you just along for the ride right now?
Not particularly.
Yeah, guys, they're just saying, like, look, the government has done enough. They've satisfied it. They did their work. They might be wrong. Or there might be a better way. Oh, well, this is the way they've come up with, and that way is good enough. I say, in addition to the data concerns, the government asserts an interest in preventing the foreign adversary from having control over the recommendation algorithm and being able to wield control that alters the content on the platform in an undetectable manner. Now, TikTok argues that rationale is content-based, and they haven't pointed to any case which this court has assessed the appropriate level of First Amendment scrutiny for an act of Congress justified on both content-neutral and content-based grounds. And they assert, however, these provisions are subject to and fail strict scrutiny because Congress would not have passed the provisions absent foreign adversary control rationale.
I don't understand that.
What's that?
Oh, you mean TikTok? Yeah, that argument doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't either, because they're arguing that these are subject to strict scrutiny because Congress wouldn't have passed the provisions absent the foreign adversary control. Well, yeah.
I suppose you're right, but what are you trying to prove?
Yeah, like, if there wasn't this threat from China, the law wouldn't exist. Okay, and what? Like, yes, I agree. If China didn't have this threat of hoovering up the data, nobody would have cared.
And if wishes were horses, what the hell are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like if Al Qaeda wasn't a terrorist group, there wouldn't be a law against giving them money.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
If ISIS were an ally,
yes, we wouldn't. It wouldn't be illegal to help them.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't disagree with TikTok saying Congress wouldn't have passed the provisions absent the foreign adversary control rationale. I don't think they would have been able to. Like, that would have been a tougher road for them, but they came up with the fact the Chinese government is involved. I don't understand that argument either, and I really don't get what they were trying to argue there. But either way, and I'm glad that you don't understand it either, because I was really confused when I read that before. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And they say they don't need to determine the proper standard for mixed justification cases to decide whether the government's adversary justification is content neutral. And they said, even assuming that rationale turns on content, the argument fails under the counterfactual analysis they propose. The record before us adequately supports the conclusion that Congress would have passed the challenge based on the data collection justification alone. Well, I mean, that was really the basis. Oh, I get what they're saying here. It took me a second rereading through this. They're arguing the algorithm is content-based, and therefore it's a dual statute. Well, Congress would have done it anyway just on the data collection. And that really was ultimately the bigger issue at the end of the day anyway for Congress. The algorithm, yeah, it's kind of a problem, but the data collection is the biggest issue. Had they not done that, this would have been there. I think that's what they're trying to argue there. And I agree. Without the data collection, there probably isn't a problem. The House report focuses overwhelmingly on the government's data collection concerns. And they say the breadth of the data collection is difficult to figure out. And the platform collects the tight interlinkages between TikTok, the Chinese government, and the Chinese government's ability to coerce companies in China to provide data. They say, indeed, it does not appear that any legislator disputed the national security risk associated with TikTok's data collection practices, and nothing in the record suggests that data collection was anything but an overriding congressional concern. They say, we're wary of parsing Congress's motives on this record with regard to an act passed with striking bipartisan support. And it passed pretty healthily, 352 to 65. And then in the Senate, it passed 79 to 18. Now, I will say, yes, I know people are concerned because when the government usually gets together on something, that should be something scary. Like, if they're all together on it, that's a bad sign. This one, I don't think is. I think it's a pretty good reason. Now, it'd be nice if they could get together and fix all of the other bullshit in this country, but this one I think is pretty legit, ultimately. In particular, TikTok once again keeps going and say they argue that the government's data collection rationale cannot justify the qualified divestiture that can't preclude any operational relationship that allows for cooperation with respect to the operation of a content recommendation algorithm or an agreement with respect to data sharing. And the government explained that ByteDance uses the data it collects to train the TikTok recommendation algorithm, which is developed and maintained in China. And they say, China. According to the government, ByteDance has previously declined to agree to stop collecting U.S. user data or sending that data to China to train the algorithm. So that's where the problem comes. The government has further noted that difficulties are shared with monitoring the data sharing between ByteDance and TikTok. And they say under these circumstances, the government's data collection justification is sufficient to sustain the challenge provisions. I mean, that's really the biggest concern anyway. And yes, without the data, the algorithm doesn't work. And they say there's no doubt that for more than 170 million Americans, TikTok offers a distinctive and expansive outlet for expression by means of engagement and source of community. But Congress has determined that divestiture is necessary to address its well-supported national security concerns regarding the data collection. And they say for the foregoing reasons, we conclude the challenge provisions do not violate the First Amendment rights. So the Court of Appeals decision is affirmed. It is so ordered. And nobody signed it. No one signed it. And we do have some information, though. Sotomayor put out her own opinion. And she concurred in part and concurring in the judgment. Okay, so Justice Sotomayor joined in with a concurrence. That means obviously she does, and we'll just do all this here. We'll just hit up what she says. She says, I join in all but part of 2A of the court's per curiam opinion. She says, I see no reason to assume without deciding that the act implicates the First Amendment because our precedent leaves no doubt that it does. And she says that TikTok does engage in expressive activity. And she says that laws that impose a disproportionate burden on those engaged in expressive activity are subject to heightened scrutiny under the First Amendment. And she says the Challenge Act plainly imposes such a burden. She says it bars an entity from distributing TikTok speech in the United States unless TikTok undergoes a divestiture. And the act, moreover, effectively prohibits TikTok from collaborating with certain entities regarding its content recommendation algorithm, even following a qualified divestiture. Which, yeah, because if you're cooperating with them, you're not really not divested from them. You're operating as their agent still. And the act implicates the content creator's right to associate with their preferred publisher for the purpose of speaking. So that too calls for First Amendment scrutiny. She says, as for the remainder of the rest of this, I agree the act survives the First Amendment challenges. So she's arguing that this is a challenge. But she says, even if I think the assessment, the ultimate conclusion is correct, they did the math differently than what I would have recommended or what she believes. But she still says the act is upheld. So this is a very minor distinction she wanted to file and she wanted to argue. So she put it out there. So right now we see Sotomayor agrees pretty much with this. And then the last one, and I believe this is just it. Yeah, so it's Gorsuch. So guys, other than Gorsuch and Sotomayor, everybody else agreed with this fully. If you don't enter a concurring in part or concurring at all, you 100% you're in agreement enough that you don't care to write anything else. So Roberts, Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, everybody else agreed with this. Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, Alito, even Clarence Thomas. And we know Clarence Thomas always, usually loves to hear himself speak. Even Clarence Thomas is like, yeah. Clarence Thomas is like, I don't care for them Chinese fellers. He let it go. So Justice Gorsuch wrote his own concurrence. He says, we have had a fortnight resolve, and it's true. They argued this on January 10th, and by January 17th, they had an opinion. But they didn't have a fortnight. A fortnight's 2 weeks, I thought. Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So they had half a fortnight to resolve, and finally on the merits, a major First Amendment dispute affecting more than 170 million Americans. And that is true. They say briefing finished. Okay, I know why he's saying it. Briefing finished on January 3rd. The argument took place on January 10th. And our opinions issued on January 17th. Given these conditions, I can sketch out only a few and admittedly tentative observations. And they say, first, the court rightly refrains from endorsing the government's asserted interest in preventing the covert manipulation of a content as a justification for the law before us. One man's covert content manipulation is another editorial discretion. And he says, journalists, speakers, and publishers of all kinds routinely make less than transparent judgments about what stories to tell and how to tell them. And that includes me and you, Kurt. We make our own decision. Why am I covering this? Because I want to. Without question, the First Amendment has much to say about the right to make those choices. It makes no difference that Americans may wish to make decisions about what they say in concert with a foreign adversary. It says, those who want our independence knew the vital importance of the freedom to think as you will and to speak as you think, as well as the dangers that come with representing the free flow of ideas. And we go back to one of the oldies, Whitney v. California.
My favorite opinion of all time.
Yes.
Brandeis's opinion is my favorite opinion.
Yes. And guys, it goes back. These are the cases that go through Schenck. Whitney is also involved in that line of cases. They call it the progeny of it. These go through those issues.
Brandeis's opinion in Whitney, basically in like 3 paragraphs, sets out all First Amendment law.
Yes,
it's so good.
Yes,
I've read it before. I've read it on stream before. I've actually been brought to tears by it on stream. I know, gay, but still, it's really, really good.
Yes, it's a very good opinion, guys, and you should read it. It also basically invalidates the whole fire in a crowded theater thing from Schenck, the clear and present danger test, like that, the way that was put together. And it's interesting when you see these cases, because I think even Whitney was about a socialist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it?
Member of the Socialist Party? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who was convicted for being a member of the Socialist Party, and the Supreme Court upheld the conviction.
Yes. Yes, chat. But remember, yes, a lot of these are going after socialists, so you're like, suffer commies. Reading the way the government looked at speech back then, a lot of things that
they didn't really decide the First Amendment existed until the 1930s.
Yeah. So I mean,
Whitney versus California was like 12 years too early.
Yes.
Before they decide, oh yeah, there's a First Amendment, we should probably pay attention to that.
Yes. So a lot of the ways you see the First Amendment expressed today, the Supreme Court would have said, if a cop stomped your guts out, would have been like, yeah, that's fine, you deserve it.
Yeah.
So they knew too that except in the most extreme situations, the fitting remedy for evil counsels is good ones. And too often in recent years, the government has sought to censor disfavored speech online. True. As if the internet were somehow exempt from the full sweep of the First Amendment. Very true. And we go to Murthy v. Missouri, and we covered this one. This is about the government interfering in COVID. But even as times and technologies change, the principle of the right to free speech is always the same. Abrams v. United States, another 1919 case with Oliver Wendell Holmes dissenting. He says, second, I am pleased the court declines to consider the classified evidence the government has submitted to us, but shielded from the petitioners and their counsel. And yes, guys, that happened. The government gave special information to the court that nobody else got to see.
Super secret information.
Yes.
That didn't matter because they didn't use it or didn't rely
I know.
on it.
But the idea that they could even get the chance to do that, you're like, wait, that's not fair. Well, yes, it's not, but the government gets to do whatever the fuck it wants. That's how this works, sadly. And they say efforts to inject secret evidence into judicial proceedings presents obvious constitutional concerns. And it says usually the evidence used to prove the government's case must be disclosed to the individual, so he has an opportunity to show that it is untrue. He says maybe there is a way to handle classified evidence that would afford a similar opportunity in cases like these. Well, here's the problem. If you give it to these people, their phones are like, well, I can't give it to any, you can't have TikTok on your phone if we give you the data. That would be the way to address it. And he says, maybe too, Congress or even the standing committees on rules of practice and procedure would profit from considering the question. They say, but as the court recognizes, we have no business considering the government's secret evidence here. And I do like that. There are times where Gorsuch has been pretty based with things, so hopefully he keeps on that road. He says, third, I harbor serious reservations about whether the law before us is content neutral and thus escapes strict scrutiny. He says, more than that, while I do not doubt that various tiers of scrutiny discussed in our case law, he talks about rational basis, strict scrutiny, some things in between, can help our analysis. I worry that litigate, and that's funny, he doesn't like intermediate scrutiny. He's just like, nah. I do worry over litigation that can sometimes take on a life of its own and do more obscure.
He cites himself. That's cute.
Then clarify the constitutional questions. Yes.
I didn't know.
And this is a case Riddle versus Hickenlooper. Hickenlooper was the governor of Colorado. And yes, out of the 10th Circuit, Jake Gorsuch concurring. Yes, that same Justice Gorsuch. Yes. Yeah, it's like that. Judges love nothing more than they could do that. They love to do that if it's appropriate. And he says, fourth, whatever the appropriate tier of scrutiny, I am persuaded that the law before us seeks to serve a compelling interest, preventing a foreign government designated by Congress as an adversary from harvesting vast troves of personal information about millions of Americans. He says, the record before us establishes that TikTok mines data both from TikTok users and about millions of others who don't consent to sharing that information. According to the FBI, TikTok can access any data stored in a consenting user's contact list, including names, photos, and other personal information. And because the record shows the PRC, the People's Republic of China, also known as West Taiwan, can require TikTok's parent company to cooperate with its efforts to obtain the data. There is little to stop all that information from ending up in the hands of a designated foreign adversary. And then he gets to talk about the blackmailing operations and yada, 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 yada. And he says, to be sure, assessing exactly what a foreign adversary may do in the future implicates delicate and complex judgments about foreign affairs and requires large elements of prophecy. But the record the government has amassed in these cases after the years of study supplies compelling reason for concern. And then he says, finally, the law before us also appears appropriately tailored to the problem it seeks to address. Without a doubt, the remedy they chose here is dramatic. The law may require TikTok's parent company to divest or effectively shutter its U.S. operations. But before seeking to impose that remedy, the coordinate branches spent years in negotiations with TikTok exploring alternatives and ultimately found them wanting. And from what I can glean from the record, that judgment was well-founded. He says, consider the alternatives. What's our preferred remedy? More speech. He says, however helpful that might be, the risk associated with shows that warning users of the risk associated with giving their data to the Chinese-controlled application would do nothing to protect non-users' data. And he says another one, forbidding TikTok's operations from sending sensitive data abroad might seem like another option, but even if Congress were to impose serious criminal penalties on the employees who violated the ban, the record suggests that would do little to deter the PRC from exploiting TikTok. And they say there are malicious code, backdoor vulnerabilities, surreptitious surveillance, and other activities. And it says agents of the PRC would not fear a monetary or criminal penalty in the United States. And that's true. They wouldn't care. It's just like when the U.S. government indicts a Russian operative in Russia. Okay, he doesn't care. He's in Russia. The record also indicates the size and complexity of the underlying software may make it impossible for law enforcement to detect violations. Even setting all these challenges aside, any new compliance regime could raise separate concerns. For instance, requiring the government to surveil Americans' data to ensure it isn't illicitly flowing overseas. And that's true. The only way you would know if any of it went out is you'd have to know what TikTok has access to and then sit there at the other side of TikTok servers and make sure nothing comes through. So the government would have to know everything about you. And that's not what I would want either. Suggesting the enforcement of a data ban might involve direct monitoring. And he's like, that's not good. And he says, whether this will work, I don't know. A determined foreign adversary may seek to do one surveillance application with another. And yeah, there probably will be another one coming out soon. As time passes and threats evolve, less dramatic and more effective solutions may emerge. Even what might happen next to TikTok remains unclear. He says, but the question we face today is not the law's wisdom. Also, you guys see this? TR means transcript. So they got the transcript of their oral arguments. And while normally it takes weeks and sometimes months to get a transcript, the Supreme Court gets theirs like lickety-split because they're special. And they say the question we face today is not the law's wisdom, only its constitutionality. And given a handful of days after oral argument to issue the opinion, he's like, I can't profess the kind of certainty I would like to have about the arguments and record before us. He says, all I can say is that at this time and under these constraints, the problems appear real and the response to it is not unconstitutional. He says, I am persuaded by the wisdom of Justice Brandeis and Whitney and Justice Holmes and Abrams. Their cases are not ours. He says, speaking with and in favor of a foreign adversary is one thing. Allowing a foreign adversary to spy on Americans is another. And that's it. Fiend. End scene. So there you go, chat. Literally everybody else except Sotomayor and Gorsuch were 100% okay with how this turned out. So everyone else, and even these guys are ultimately okay with it. And Green Top Machine and Tool, yes. Green Top Machine Tool says, just because my government spies on me doesn't mean I have to be okay with China spying on me. Very true. Sounding Six says, can we sanction Canada for letting all their air come down here? I don't know. Is it getting pretty cold in Texas, Kurt? Is it getting pretty cold in Texas?
It's been 30s, 40 degree.
I guess they said it was going to snow and down that way, like Louisiana and down your way. So
not yet. It's actually been pleasant during the day. I've had the window open sometimes.
Oh, nice. So, I don't know. What do you? I know, Kurt. Obviously, I don't know. Do you ultimately agree with how they did it here, or do you agree the ban should exist, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would take more aggressive positions than this. But I agree with this. For me, I think I look at it as an import regulation because the facts say that the algorithm is under the control of ByteDance. Regardless of TikTok USA, the algorithm is ByteDance's. So the algorithm, therefore, is being imported. And so for me, I look at it as just simply a customs regulation.
Yes.
And so I'm like, we're banning the import of the algorithm. And I'm like, that makes it simple for me. So I would pick more aggressive postures than this. Okay.
And in chat, kind of what Kurt's citing there, it goes off the idea that a sovereign has control over its borders. And that also kind of goes all the way back to, and I mentioned this before, you go back to the Treaty of Westphalia, that a nation state has defined borders. And part of that defined border is you get the right to Remember, as you own your house or your apartment, you have the right to include or exclude people to an extent. I can allow Kurt onto my property. I can keep him off my property because I control. This is my little, I'm sovereign in that area, in that regard. And then the government, the sovereign idea, and the king could control who comes in and what doesn't come in through duties and import, export. Well, the government has that ability to regulate, and that ability to regulate is pretty much solely theirs.
Right.
So,
and we also like these ideas around the world, like what kind of stuff you can bring in and what kind of stuff you can take out.
yeah, exactly.
So we have ITAR that deals with exporting software, crypto, and other sort of sensitive equipment.
Well, yeah, not even to that point. It's just like, if you duty-free stores, do you have anything to declare? Can you bring in agriculture and produce or animals or anything in general? You import a car. We don't just let
and it's totally up to every country to make these determinations. So one country can be like, we love that thing. We really would like you to bring in that thing. That thing is the greatest thing. Another country can be like, we hate that thing. We never want to see that thing ever.
Yes.
It's completely a subject of the sovereign. So they don't really need a rationale beyond that.
Yeah. And Joe Loy says, you're saying how much does the USA import from China? Pretty much everything.
A lot.
Yeah. Almost everything. We pretty much everything.
But it can be as piecemeal as you like too. That's the other thing. Like it can be as specific or as broad as it like.
Yes.
It can be like we will allow nothing from China. It can be like we'll allow everything but China, but this one thing from this one company. It can be whatever you want to be.
Yes.
And then it's just a matter of diplomacy and international trade and reciprocity beyond that. But there's no legal prohibition. After that, it just becomes politics.
Yes. And Benjamin listening is 14 in Arkansas. Wow.
Yeah.
That's rough down there. Well,
if we're moving on to other subjects, I would like to talk briefly about our perhaps new exciting constitutional amendment.
Yes. Well, hey, apparently Joe Biden thought the ERA got passed.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Yes. I like how everybody was like, no, that's not a thing.
Which is also contrary to positions the U.S. government itself has taken on this exact issue in court before.
Mm-hmm. Was there any sunset to the ERA if it hadn't got ratified, or was this one that was just left out open?
It was in the preamble of the bill as opposed to the text of the amendment that was initially 7 years and then extended another 3.
Oh, okay.
They got 35 states in 7 years. They didn't get any states in the following 3.
Yeah, and it's been around for
a long time.
Yeah, prior to either of us being
40 years.
Yeah,
it's been around a hot minute.
Yeah. So Fishi is saying, is it Trump reversing the ban? Sorry if I repeat the question. Just got here. He can't reverse it, but allegedly he's claimed
he's going to ignore it.
He'll work with TikTok to do it, or he might just flat out ignore it. I kind of think that's what's going to happen, because remember, it's up to him to enforce it. Well, if he doesn't enforce it, you can't really go to the Supreme Court and say enforce the law, because the Supreme Court's going to say that's his purview. Yeah. It's his job, and if he doesn't want to enforce it, we like we saw with immigration law. I don't want to enforce it.
Yeah.
Supreme Court goes, oh well, that's his choice. Philip Martin is saying, if TikTok is sold, what's to stop the parent company from leaving hidden vulnerabilities to give them access anyway?
Well, the bill contemplates that possibility. Like they're not allowed to have any concert in reality, in fact, or whatever. Well, so they'd have to give sufficient assurances to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The bill would allow the government to determine whether or not you've met their requirements, and that would mean you're going to have to say, "Fine, we demand to inspect your source code. We have to see your algorithm." And ByteDance would go like, well, I don't know about that. And if you can't, then you're not going to be allowed in. So that's the way the government will dictate that. Fine, we see everything. And TikTok won't allow that to happen. And Sounding Six says, don't bring weed to China. Yeah, I think they execute you for that. Oh, that's
Singapore.
That's Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia. A lot of Southeastern countries will either possibly kill you or jail you forever for very relatively low level drug offenses in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Even Japan will break it off on you. Haven King says, "Can Trump pardon Nick?" No.
Well, to the extent he's committed federal crimes,
Well,
which there are some implications.
Maybe, yes, maybe. But overall, yes, at this point in time, he can't for the state level stuff. No. And I know people said, well, why can't Trump pardon people for state level offenses? You wouldn't want that because, as I said before, you then create the president as like a super governor. And I wouldn't want that. Like, I believe in federalism. The Trump's power is only over the federal government, and the states have their own power. I wouldn't want extra. I don't want the president being able to overrule what, the state and the people in that state have decided by electing their officials.
Yeah.
So what do we got here?
So can we talk some more about the substance or the potential implications of the 20th Amendment? Because I'm interested to get your ideas on this issue.
Sure. Let's go for it.
So the 28th or the proposed 28th Amendment, the Equal
Yeah.
Rights Amendment says, let me see if I can get this verbatim. It says, equality of rights shall not be deprived by the United States or by any state on account of sex.
Yeah.
Is the operative text.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it seems to me, and the ABA, the American Bar Association, agrees with me as to this much, that the practical import of this would be to change sex-based discrimination from intermediate scrutiny, which is what we use now,
Yes.
to strict scrutiny,
Yes.
which is what we use for example, discrimination on the basis of race or discrimination on the basis of religion, is strict scrutiny.
Yes.
Okay. So it seems, and for example, this is exactly why the Supreme Court said that the affirmative action programs at colleges recently were unconstitutional because they're discrimination on the basis of race. Certain races are preferred or not, and that doesn't pass strict scrutiny. So my thought on this issue, and obviously I'm trying to forecast basically all Supreme Court decisions forever, which is inherently a dangerous proposition.
Yes.
But my view on this is, I think that the people who propose it, which is principally the more left-hand people of the political aisle, I think they would come to regret it more than they would be happy about it if it actually came to pass, because you would have to pass strict scrutiny in any government program on the federal level or state or any subsidiary locality and any state institution, which incidentally includes public universities.
Yes. And Michael's
it includes
Title IX.
It includes marriage, divorce, alimony, childcare, child custody, scholarship programs, any sort of programs to try to get more women into certain fields, STEM,
minority-owned businesses,
programs. It would impact every federal law, of course, conscription. It would basically make illegal any benefit that benefits women in any way. And so I think that you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it seems to me that my friends on the other side of the aisle who support this, would come to rue the day in the end.
I think they very much would, but I think they were, back then they weren't thinking about all of that, and
it also incidentally presupposes sex exists.
Yes.
Well, because you've now put that you can't discriminate on the basis of sex, which presupposes sex is a thing.
Yes.
And it would incidentally use that term as it was understood at the time of ratification.
Yes.
So
that means there's only two genders.
We're going back to a binary, which would make the transgender people very unhappy.
Yes.
So I have a feeling like if it ever comes to pass, the conservatives could take this and just really shove it up their ass.
Yes. Oh no, I agree. It's very much this would be a very bad thing, but I think at the time they weren't thinking that far ahead. But yes, given the decades of law since the ERA was proposed and all of that, I think they realized we don't want this anymore. So, but yes, it basically would destroy everything that, especially like you said, family courts would basically get thrown on their head. And that alone would be a problem. And then somebody was asking, Title IX would go away. That would be hilarious to see that happen. And somebody's saying, why are the neurological girls saying it passed? Because Joe Biden or somebody in his office, I think, as their attempt to think they were smart, because I think it was Virginia, right? That was the state.
Yeah, Virginia was the last one, which was 2 years ago, which the amendment itself says it would go into effect 2 years after ratification.
Yes. So Virginia ratified it. And then somebody in the White House said, oh my God, it's been 2 years. It's in effect. Because obviously Joe Biden's not texting. Maybe Jill tried to do it. But even the National Archives were like, yeah, that's not how this works.
Yeah, I just don't quite understand. Like, because the American Bar Association thinks it's a great idea.
Yeah.
The left seem to think, a lot of left professors seem to think it's a really good idea. It's like one of us is missing something.
Yeah.
Someone is missing something. Either I'm missing something or you're missing something. Yeah. And that isn't to say that I think that it would be necessarily a universal boon for men.
Mm-hmm.
I think the right wouldn't be thrilled with it either. I don't think the right will like it, but I think the left will rue the day.
Oh, they would. I think they would. And KJ says a Zoomer intern probably thought it was clever. I'm sure. Somebody who wasn't really in charge, because remember, they're already on their way out. People are packing their boxes, and what jobs are they going to get next? They can't, get grift off the government anymore. They're going to have to go work at a think tank or get a job with NBC. So yeah, I'm sure it was, some media intern or somebody who thought like, ha ha ha, take that. But yes, it's not valid, and it just makes everything look very embarrassing that they thought it was still there. John Griggs says family court should be completely abolished. Well, not necessarily saying I disagree. There are the amount of times where I've thought that is a lot. So a lot.
Yeah.
But yes, I thought it was very interesting that they posted that as a thing, and the idea of just not running through the idea somebody in the administration thought we're going to say an amendment got passed and not have like running that by anybody in charge to make sure that wasn't the case is a very concerning thing. Like that they didn't stop to get anybody else in to check that one, because that is kind of a big deal. It's not a minor deal to have a new constitutional amendment.
No, constitutional amendments are nuclear bombs because they touch everything.
Yes.
It by necessity impacts every statute and every regulation and every program and every action of any governmental actor on any level. It necessarily now suddenly you have to potentially reinterpret / make illegal parts of the Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
Title IX, Title VI.
Yeah, everything.
There's a lot of things in there that you'd have to like take a second look at, and suddenly you have to redo a lot of interpretation.
And not only at that level, but at state levels, every court that next day is going to have to literally change how they do things. Everything would change. Everything would change. Everything would change.
It blows up all precedent.
Yes.
And so then you're left in a world of uncertainty. And it has to mean strict scrutiny, because otherwise it's intermediate scrutiny, in which case it's pointless. And we don't want to do that. We certainly don't want to interpret it in a pointless way.
Yes, we'd have a second-class amendment then at that point.
Yeah.
That amendment gets only 70%. It only gets 70% of... Wait, that's the argument. Women make 70% of what men make. So the amendment to give women equal rights only gets 70% of the scrutiny that the men get.
And this old line red says Biden's own Justice Department says not validly ratified. That's true. They said it twice. The Office of Legal Counsel said it at least twice.
Yes.
The Biden administration has said it in court filings because people tried to sue the archivist of the United States to force her to ratify it, and so they mentioned the DOJ has previously taken the position in court filings that is not validly ratified.
Yes.
And so, and the archivist of the United States is like, well, I'm not publishing it.
Yeah, I don't have the authority to. Now, it is true, though. It takes 38 states. That is 3/4. I mean, until we annex Canadian provinces and make them states. The math will get thrown off, chat. But yes, 38 states is the magic number. You just have to do it within a time frame. So, DS is saying, sorry, wondering if DOD women are Hanger or Arrow CB. I don't know. I kind of that went over my head. I don't understand. Sorry. And then real quick chat, we have Palmyra Media gifting 10 subs. Cheryl Morin gifting 10 subs. And Bibliophile gifting 5 subs. Grace, watch out. They're climbing the clock tower. And they're looking for each one of you that's out there. And they're just there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide, Grace. You're either going to get drilled or you're getting a free helicopter.
I want someone who's in favor of the ERA to explain to me what statutes or regulations they're looking to overturn with the ERA. That's what I want. What rules, regulations, statutes, policies, programs by any government on any level? What problem are you trying to solve in terms of governmental programs, rules?
Yes. Nowadays,
what problem are you trying to solve? Please tell me what problems you're trying to solve. Because I don't know what problems they're trying to solve.
Now, yes. I very much agree. And then real quick, J-Rock gifted 10 subs as well. We're praying the gray away, chat. We're doing everything we can to get rid of them. We're taking your jobs. We're asking for God's help. And if God won't help us, we'll do the work ourselves. So thank you, J-Rock. And thank Palmyra, Bibliophile, and Cheryl for your support. I appreciate it. DS says, come on, Kurt. Japan hates China way too much. There's that too. And then KJ says, thank you for being here 11 months. Says, what's up with my future governor, Vivek? Oh my God. I do not want him to become my governor. No. I'm so worried about that. God, I hope he loses. No, he's cringe. I don't need him I don't need him importing basically H-1Bs to Ohio.
I don't really have a strong position on the H-1B issue. I don't really know what I think about it.
I do. I think it's heavily abused. And, it's funny when people are like, oh, well, there's only so many people coming in. It's like, why can't I get an H-1B visa for a guy who's a cook at a hotel? We can't find people who can cook. There's only so many things, like when they're undermining, they say like, well, there's not enough engineers. Okay, well, can we make more? No, you guys are retarded and we don't have any more. So we're going to import people. Well, why don't we work on fixing the problem? No. It's like, then obviously you're doing this because you want it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just haven't been thinking for the chat. I just haven't been thinking about it very long. This issue just kind of popped up, and I didn't really have a strong position on it before. Sure. So I'm still trying to mull out what I think about it.
No, I understand. Steve G says China own any part of Raytheon or Lockheed, for example. Well, why do they need to own them? They get all the intelligence data they want. They don't have to own them. Mavka's saying you won't import a car. Well, I'm not going to import a car, but you can import cars. That is not impossible.
We import cars all the time.
Yeah. Mad Rhetoric is saying if Trump doesn't throw this away, Red Note, Gotcha Games, and Temu are next. Oh my God, if that happens, I don't know how Bossman Jack's going to survive if the gambling websites disappear. Oh no, that would be so scary. But yeah, Temu going down, that would actually help the US
buys
economy.
On Temu anyway? I mean, it's absolute shit.
A lot of people do, man. I mean,
apparently,
like Jeff used to do it for shits and giggles, but you think about how many people buy dumb shit all the time.
You can't just buy dumb shit on Amazon like a normal person.
Well, yeah, but that costs more. You're saving money by buying the really cheap dumb shit.
Okay.
So that's a thing out there. That's a thing out there. And real quick, Where is Nero saying, as an engineer that owns his own business, and there are more than enough American engineers, the big companies like H-1Bs because they're easier to threaten with firing. Yeah, you don't do what you want, you get sent home. Although they all know at this point nothing happens to them because they could just hide.
Well, my friend, with that, I think I'm going to sign off.
All
I'm
right.
kind of tired, and I got a streaming day ahead.
Yes, it's going to be a big day. Kurt, what time are you starting tomorrow?
I am going to be starting 11 Eastern.
All right, Chad. 11 Eastern. The Emperor of Mankind reascends to the Golden Throne. To another age of baseness. So we will look forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And Kurt, we'll see you tomorrow, man. Take care.
All right. Later. Bye-bye.
Yep. Guys, Kurt at Uncivil Law. Give him a like. Give him subscribe. Friend of the show. Really great guy to have. Smart guy. Smarter than I am. You know, that's the thing about it. You know, you got to know when you're not the smartest guy in the room. And by far, I am farthest thing from it. Kurt, got him. Kurt is a brilliant man. So there you go, guys. Northside over on Rumble, you're saying, wasn't ISIS an ally against Bashar al-Assad? Yes, he was our ally fighting Assad, and then we supported HTS. And we gave Ukraine money, and Ukraine gave money to HTS. So, yeah. So, Shane Changer says, you think Hillary would be left off the pardon list? Yes, she's not getting one. She doesn't need one. Nothing's going to happen to her. Then real quick, EDW Raptor, Natasha. Hello, Natasha, by the way. And the Amateur Iconoclast gifting 1 sub. But EDW and Natasha gifting 5 subs. Grace. Tomorrow's a new day. We president now, Grace. We coming for you. We're taking it all. We're so back. We are so back, chat. We are so back. Grace. You don't understand. You don't understand what's coming. You don't understand what's coming these next 4 years. Oh, Lord. You don't understand what's coming. So protect your neck out there, Grace. That's all I can tell you. Protect your neck. But thank you guys for all your support. Thank you. Palmyra is saying, one of my runners literally probably gets 20 packages a week from Temu and has the nerve to say they don't pay rent. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's all kinds of garbage out there. Wait, so Temu uses the UN-funded Universal Post system. Really? Interesting. Huh. Matt Reddick says, seems like Fauci isn't going to get a pardon. I bet he does. I bet he gets one. Joe's going to protect some people there. Kitchen Knife says, am I streaming tomorrow at all? Yeah. I was thinking around 11:30 to get started, but that was my time. That's what I was thinking about. The Grays will rise again. No, you will not. And it's a war of green aggression. You're goddamn right. It's a war of green aggression. It is a war of green aggression, yes. And Trouble Grays, embrace your wormhood. KLB says, when the U.S. takes Canada tomorrow, all the Jeets are taking up residence in Ohio. I will build a wall personally. I will build a 10-foot tall wall. I will make it 10 feet taller if I have to. We are not becoming Pindia. I will not let the Jeets in. No. We're full in Ohio. So, like I said, we'll be starting at 11:30, chat. Yes. Action. Yeah, you're pretty much right here. Yes, disposable goods become cheap as dirt, while real assets, like homes and vehicles, went through the roof. It's almost like it's been engineered that way. Makes your noggin, get your noggin jogging, doesn't it? GM says YouTube made me forever gray. Well, don't worry. We'll try. We are going to try. We are going to forcibly try to see what we can do. Fallen Preacher says, you can never change my color. Give me a chance. Somebody asked, am I on TikTok? No, but I need to be. 2.0 keeps telling me to do it. I'm gonna have to see what's gonna happen because I'm not gonna go through all of doing potentially criminal on TikTok and then all of a sudden for it to go away. So, yes, the last thing we need are more Bobs and Vagana. Make sure the wall is made of toilets. I know. That's how we're gonna have the VOC conf test for people coming in the country. This is a toilet, sir. What do you do with it? And there's gonna be like, ah, and they're gonna just melt down and be like, sorry, you can't come in. You know, the VOC conf test is gonna be, you see a turtle using a toilet. What do you do? Oh, better dress up Clyde as a cow. Yeah. No street shitters. I know, chat. We will do our part on these shields, chat. On these shields. Oh. Let's see here. There's some more comments. Matty B says you are way smarter and funnier than Kurt. I mean, that's your thought on that, but no, Kurt is a very, very smart guy, and I will say I appreciate Kurt too quite a lot. Joe Loy for 10 pounds sterling. The King Sterling. Don't get to say that enough, chat. The King Sterling is saying, I am happy to watch on the fence for what happens next. You and your chat is great, Sean. Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well. You got your little doggo there. I know. He's a very good boy. It's always never have enough good boys in chat sitting there. Wow, that made me sound like I'm like some creepy. Oof, that was bad. That was bad. I Take It Good says, I also had this account branded because Google fumbled the Google Plus bullshit. Oof, that's no good. That's no good. Bella, you are right. Brennan Circuses, yeah. And Joe, it is good to see you as well. I know it's been a little while, so long time no see. Glad to see you. Kimbo says, I'll manage your TikTok account and I won't Fed post on it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so it's over on Rumble. Jody's saying, is it too much to ask to make accountability great again? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Tech Guy South says, future Mrs. Martin 2.0 is a Chinese spy. Well, she does like Chinese food, so maybe. A little sus now. A little sus. Maybe it's the MSS and not the FBI you need to worry about. Hella says, I ditched TikTok months ago because I'm in the future, and I knew. Yes. So, Sounding Six says upper deckers. Yeah. Oh, yes. On these shields. Oh. Happy MLK Day tomorrow. Tyler, how you doing over at the Libertarian Podcast Review? Yes, the best podcast review of libertarians, but also the best libertarian podcast review. Multiple ways it's number one out there, chat. Tyler, good to see you, man. We need to get together again soon. Can I do the Trump dance for you guys? Well, I mean, we need some music here. I don't know. Hold on. We need a I don't know. Can we do it? I don't know. We gotta find. Well, never back down. They'll demonetize this. So, we'll get a lot of Trump dancing in tomorrow. I promise you. There'll be Trump dancing tomorrow. There'll be all kinds of Trump dancing. We'll do all kinds of Trump dancing. So, I promise. It'll be there forever. Yes. How would you feel if you didn't use a toilet yesterday morning? Oh no. Oh no. Oh my God. That is awesome. Natasha gifted 5 more subs. Taking 5 more grays down. Yeah. Natasha's just driving down the road and she just sees grays and she's still like running them down with her car. She's like, why not? I got a bumper. It's for bumping. They just just taking you out, Grays. Keep running, Grays. Thank you for the support, Natasha. I appreciate it. And your generosity. Well, let's see here. Michael Stetson says that's going to get clipped and used out of context. Oh, I know it will. Am I sniffly? I know I am. Very sniffly. I feel like I sound like I'm probably talking like this right now. I have my own TikTok, yes, but I don't have like a potentially criminal TikTok. Unless there's some like some dude out there who's some Chinese guy who's just like stolen it and made a fake one. What are the chances for Vivek in Ohio? If he stays in Trump's good grace, is very high. Ow. You sneeze a little too hard. You can feel it in your back. Now, here's the thing. The lieutenant governor is being appointed to fill the Senate seat. So John Husted was probably going to be the next in line to be governor. But now running for Senate, now he's a senator, that's not going to be an issue. There is, from what I understand, from what I could tell from people I know and things I've heard, the attorney general here in Ohio, Dave Yost, he was kind of thought he was going to get it, but there was like a big power struggle and a big fuck you at some point. So I think Dave Yost might be the guy running for governor against Vivek. I think it's probably going to be one or two of those guys. One of those two. DeWine is not going to run again. He's out. So he's term limited. So he's out. Which is good because I don't like him. But there's a decent chance Vivek is going to be my governor. There's a decent chance. And that's not a good thing. Tin Talk was around 90% foot porn anyway. That's how they get around the TOS. I'll let you. I'll take your word for it, Kimbo, since you're in charge of that. Agusing, which is worse, the MSS, the FBI, the CIA, or the GRU? Yeah. 2.0 is a gray spy. Don't you fucking dare. Don't you dare, sir. Yes, we love our TikTok. We love our foot pics. Oh, they're so good. Oh, they're so sweet. We're gonna stab you with the ball or not a teaming knife. There we go. They must have MSG in all food and food products. Yeah. Well, there's that one guy, the what's his name? Like dude who like the like he does the like Uncle Roger. Yeah, he likes MSG and all his shit. Yes. Happy James Earl Ray Day. Yes, I know that's how people celebrate tomorrow. It's also Robert E. Lee's birthday. So the Village People Live at the Trump rally is incredible. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. So 7-Eleven is going to be the 7-Eleven. Ohio's going to be the 7-Eleven capital of the world. I don't want it to be. I think Ohio's got one of the larger amounts of them anyway. But yes, that would be rough. Yes, it's MAGA Eve. Geez, now I sneeze. My nose is just running. J-Rock says, I made a Discord server. Sadly, you're not persona non grata. Taka. Well, Taka these nuts. Can you vouch for me to practice in front of SCOTUS? If I got admitted to the Supreme Court bar, yes, then I could I could. That's how you remember, guys. We talked about this. Supreme Court bar is literally you pay some money and like two people are on the Supreme Court bar already say, I signed the form. That's all it takes. Yes. Whoa, buddy. Take some vitamin C and zinc. See a cough in there. Yeah, actually, I do have a big upgrade. I did get some. My doctor. I got a bunch of vitamin D to work on taking too. So, Cal says my toilet is still working. Good. Congrats. Let's see here. Out of context, Sean is the best, Sean. Yeah, of course. Do I dance on TikTok? No. Yes, that's how you ask the Indians. Does toilet paper go in the tissue box or on the roll? Really, I could feel that through my back. Ow. Sounding 6. Because what's better than sounding 5? Sounding 6. But sounding 7. Too many. Unless that was your call sign, sounding, and you were like, leader of that, element. Sounding 6. Gifting 5 subs. He's like, I don't like the Grays either. I want to do my part. Thank you for the support and your generosity. Love the hat on your guy in your profile. Love the hat. Kimbo says I have $200,000 on merchandise offload. All right, chat. What do we got here? Gesundheit, thank you. Eventually, you'll be the only gray left. I mean, do you really want to be the last of the Mohicans? I don't know, man. I don't know. Botto saying, I liked your voice from a minute ago. Your Greer voice is even better. Yes, Vivek does suck. Assholes React. Guys, remember, Assholes React is here on YouTube. Got to look for them as spelled out here. Whiskey 77 and 3 beers, guys. Enjoy them. They got a great channel out there. What up, nerd? Not much, nerds. Fire and Ice says DeWine needs to just enjoy retirement. Yeah, but the problem is ultimately with DeWine it's not just him, it's his family. I mean, there's a Justice DeWine, like his daughter was trying to run for office and she got smoked out. So it's not that, it's the political family itself is a problem. So it's not just him. The cancer remains. Yes, the charges against that reporter got dropped. Which Sir Fifth, which one are you talking about? The East Palestine guy? Because that was a while ago. But yes, they have been dropped. TikTok has turned into a home shopping network for Zoomers. Yes, it has. It's very interesting. Yeah, Vivek is not the savior conservative people think he is. Yes. And yes, very squishy DeWine is. Well, DeWine voted for the assault weapons ban back in 1994. That should tell you all you need to know. So, let's see here. Temu knives are just broken bottles. Yes. Yes. Oh, the Uncle Roger thing. Fooyah! Yeah, there you go. God, I'm really behind. I got to catch up here. HIV wants us as a TikTok ban. Technically, yes, but in a legally yes, but factually right now, no. Biden has refused to go after them, and right now Trump has said he'll work with them. So legally, yes, they're banned, but officially, like in a factual sense, they're probably just going to operate it and continue on. So kind of, but not really. All right, geez, I'm just like, it's going after me, chat. Yes. Turger the White says, Sar, what are we doing for 25 subscribers, Sar? I don't know. We're going to have to get there first. It's a long way to go still. It's a long way to go. Will you do sandwich eating on TikTok? Maybe. EDW Raptor gifted 5 subs. 5 more EDW Raptors. Like, you know what? In honor of the Emperor Mankind returning to us, he's like, Grays. He's giving you the chance to convert. So that way you could walk in the eternal light and benevolence of Donald John Trump. So embrace it. You will never go wrong. So thank you for the support and your generosity again, EDW. Very much. And then No Mayo is a new member. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the support. Thank you. So, Botto, what happened here? Oh, so I had my second child in a week. Congrats. Congrats, man. To a happy and healthy baby. I, hope, and Mom is okay as well. I'll disappear for a bit, but I'll be here in a spirit and technically physically in Ohio as well. Well, good luck. Hope everything goes well. Hope everything goes well. Happy baby, and everybody goes home safe. So, let me see here. Yeah, congrats on the baby. And Mad Rhetoric says, I don't want to be gray. YouTube on this phone just sucks. Well, yeah, that's an issue too. And Kimbo is apparently, yes, something about Allah. Yes, praise Allah. Chiku says Vivek doesn't suck, but whatever. Well, I mean, like, I got some issues. He's gonna have to reprove himself to me. So we'll see. De jure van, but de facto still rotting minds. Yeah, pretty much. Somebody DoorDash me some medicine. No, it's just like I started sneezing and yeah, I'm okay. Chat. So 25-hour stream for 25K subs. Yeah, that ain't fucking happening. That ain't happening. Did I see your employer was fined $19 million by the SEC over Ohio corruption? No, I did not. Send me some information. I'll take a look at that. Inauguration stream tomorrow. That's happening, right? Yes, 11:30 will be live. 11:30, chat. Let's see here. Let's see here. I can't afford Sean's. Thanks, Alpha Fox. He won't get impeached again. This is the year of the Trump and Zip. Yes, he will not get impeached again. I don't see that happening. Knock on wood. Although it'll be hilarious if it happens again because he can't get convicted. So there you go. That'll be the best part about it all. Mofuck over in Rumble says, "Hail, faggots." Well, hello. At 25K, I need to celebrate a 25-hour stream in my version of Naked Snake. Well, there's a really good version of Naked Snake out there. It's done by 8-Bit Cinema or 8-Bit Orchestra. It's really good. It's better. It's even better than will I get copy struck for it or will I just get demonetized? I don't know. Well, we'll play it for a minute. Here, let me see. Let me see here. Guys, this is the one I'm talking about. It's 8-Bit Cinema or 8-Bit the 8-Bit Big Band. It's actually really good. It's really good. We're only going to play a couple seconds of it. But here you go. What a thrill. Anyways, this, guys, look him up. It's actually better than the game itself, so keep it up. But yes, Snake Eater. It could be Baldo Eater now. There we go. I hope Delta doesn't suck. I think it's looking good. I kind of like it. I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be actually fun to do. So there you go. Yes, from a tree frog. Yes, it's very Bondish. Well, that was the whole premise of Snake Eater when you like the actual when Konami did it. It was meant to be like very much a kind of like campy and parts of it, where it's very much like a James Bond thing, and it had a nice James Bond-y song. But this is actually done very much better. So, yes, Snake Eater versus Snack Eater. That'll be mine. Metal Gear Blobulus Snack Eater. That'll be a fun video game cover. Oh. I hated that song until it played while I was climbing the ladder. Then I loved it. Yeah. Are they reusing the voices or recording new lines? I think they're reusing the lines. So, yes. A lard ass to surpass PPP. Follow the trail of Doritos. Yes. Oh, solid snack. Even better. Even better. Even better, chat. Even better. Oh. Yes, he's got the ice. Got the ice cream. Snack eater. Oh my God. All right, chat. We got to land the plane here. So, I can see Sean and Snake facing off in the mountains. I don't know what my ability would be other than talking about airplanes. Snake, do you know about trains, Snake? Or how about airplanes? Yes. Snacks! Snacks! Oh, no. Oh. Sar, do not land the plane, Sar. Eric says, very thick snake. Thick. It's like the Trump meme goes, how thick? Instead of rations, it's snacks and Sammy's. Well, instead of Snake sitting there and smoking a cigarette, I'm like, eat a sandwich. Ah. Sir, it's even worse than we thought. Is it Nazis? No, sir. They're foamers. So, all right, chat. It's 11:15. We got to get ready for tomorrow. It's going to be a fun day. Land the plane. I have to get up in 5 hours. All right, we need to land it. Chat. So that's the situation. That's the lay of the land right now. I think the decision's properly. It's grounded. I think it makes sense given the vulnerabilities of TikTok. For now, though, it's still there. You can still use it. And it probably is going to end up being that way till the next administration. So we'll see, chat. In the meantime, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. But remember, chat, we'll be covering we'll be doing the inauguration stream. Remember, chat, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Unless you're working with the Chinese government, then you're pretty fucking guilty. I mean, fuck those guys. Really. Fuck the Chinese government. Suffer, Peking. Suffer. See you tomorrow, Tyler. Take care, man. Good night, everybody.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the